Chapter 39. Is that so? Then today, the things that can be filmed will be even more exciting. The boy stared at Bai Yunj gloomily, and his laughter made people uncomfortable. Chu Zhixing immediately panicked. He, a boy, felt humiliated to be filmed like this. Not to mention Bai Yunj, a girl. Student Pei, hurry up and leave. Chu Zhixing gritted his teeth and held his abdomen as he insisted. When the boy heard this, his face was full of violence. This fat pig really dared to interfere. I think you're really King courting death. The boy turned his head and raised his fist, punching Chu Zhixing's cheek. But then, just as Chu Zhixing subconsciously closed his eyes and waited for the pain to come, he didn't feel any movement for a long time. After a while, Chu Zhixing's eyelids moved and he narrowed his eyes tentatively. He saw Bai Yunj holding the boy's arm with one hand. Chu Zhixing wasn't the only one who was shocked by this scene. Even the boys and Ling Jiwei beside him had their smiles frozen on their faces. He borrowed my book. Are you going to hit him in front of me? A second ago, Bai Yunj was still smiling as if she was discussing with someone. The next second, she suddenly grabbed the back of the boy's collar. She dragged him into a blind spot as if she was dragging a bag of trash. The boy's face turned red as his collar tightened. He struggled desperately, but it was to no avail. The next moment, he was thrown against the wall, and his bones made muffled sounds. Brother Qian. A few of his underlings immediately wanted to go forward, but then they saw Bai Yunj punch Brother Qian in the face. Her movements were clean and neat, but her eyes were fierce and ruthless. Do you know what happens to trash? Bai Yunj asked lightly. However, the people around felt their hair stand on end. You need to be taught a lesson. You. The boy was in so much pain that his brain was spinning, but before he could finish speaking, Bai Yunj raised her knee and slammed it into the boy's abdomen. Ah! The boy bent down in pain, trembling as he clutched his stomach. Stand properly. Bai Yunj's tone was lazy. This was really the first time she had encountered someone who made people stand still and take a beating. The boy was obviously afraid of this ruthless person. He endured the pain and slowly straightened his back. Pei, classmate Pei, please take your classmate away. I promise I won't look for him again. Sorry for the trouble. Wait for him to find a few more people outside the school. Do you have to kill this woman? Student Pei, forget it. Chu Zhixing couldn't help but say. He hated these people, but they were not worth Bai Yunj's punishment. Before the boy could heave a sigh of relief, he saw Bai Yunj's red lips curl up and her slender, fair hand gently patting his face. Kneel on your own, or do you need me to help you? When the boy heard this, his face turned pale. Bai Yunj, aren't you afraid of being kicked out of Hengde for doing this? Ling Jiwei's voice was anxious and sharp, and it even trembled a little. She really did not expect Bai Yunj to treat them this way. Don't worry, you're next. Bai Yunj glanced at her slowly and said in a cold voice. Ling Jiwei's heart suddenly turned cold. The next moment, Bai Yunj grabbed the boy's collar and said, You don't want to choose? I've already chosen for you. As soon as she finished speaking, Bai Yunj suddenly let go of the boy and kicked him in the back. The boy screamed and threw himself at the glass shards on the ground. There were not many shards, but there was still a piece that pierced the flesh of his thigh. Blood dyed the ground red. The boy's face was full of pain and he screamed again. My leg, my leg. Ling Jiwei's pupils shrank when she saw this scene. Chapter 40. Her pretty face was pale. Bai Yunj, how dare you make a move in school? It wasn't until Bai Yunj's gaze shifted to her that Ling Jiwei couldn't help but scream. My father is the vice president of a listed company. Bai Yunj, you can't touch me. At this moment, Bai Yunj had just raised her eyes, but before she could turn her head, she heard a weak hiss of pain beside her. She narrowed her eyes slightly and saw that Chu Zhixing's breathing was erratic. His face was abnormally pale, and he looked like he had a relapse. What's wrong with you? Bai Yunj turned around and walked to Chu Zhixing's side. Ling Jiwei and the others saw this and immediately ran away. But at this time, Bai Yunj didn't have the time to care about them. Chu Zhixing's eyes flickered and his pale lips moved. He wanted to say something but stopped. He didn't want Bei Yunj to think that he was a monster. Do you need medicine? An injection? Hearing this, Chu Zhixing's entire body stiffened. In fact, Bei Yunj had noticed at first glance that there were several needle holes on the inside of Chu Zhixing's elbow. I'll take you to the infirmary first. No! Chu Zhixing's voice was hoarse. He lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Bei Yunj's eyes. Even his biological mother was afraid and distant when she saw him having a relapse. He gritted his teeth and endured it, but his eyes were bloodshot. His voice was so suppressed that it trembled. I'll be fine after resting for a while. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's faint voice sounded. You don't want me to kick you a few times to wake you up, do you? Chu Zhixing, if you're sick, then treat it. Do you understand? Who doesn't have illnesses and pains? Chu Zhixing paused and subconsciously raised his head to look at Bei Yunj. The girl in front of him only had her usual laziness and a little impatience on her face. She didn't have the fear and disgust that he saw in the eyes of others. She didn't treat him as a monster. Her impatience was real. She had originally scheduled a conference call with the people from the Computing Institute. Now she had stood them up. You have such a good temper, Chu Zhixing lowered his head and muttered. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Can you get up? I can. Chu Zhixing nodded his head like he was pounding garlic. He tried his best to get up, but he almost fell. It was Bei Yunj who helped her up. Bei Yunj pondered in silence. She knew very well that she was the one who had caused this incident. I'm sorry. Chu Zhixing's expression was not very good, but when he reacted, he hurriedly shook his head. I was willing to lend it to you. You didn't force me. Bei Yunj glanced at him. A short while later, just when Chu Zhixing thought that Bei Yunj did not want to speak, he heard her speak again. Next time, you can look for me if you need anything. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing's eyes almost turned hot. He gritted his teeth and looked at her hopefully. Can I follow you in the future? Infirmary. Bei Yunj had just sent a text message to the Computing Institute when she walked to the door. Classmate, did you send classmate Chu here? The infirmary teacher was a young woman with neat bangs. She looked gentle and cute and wore glasses. Yes. Bei Yunj asked. Teacher, how's Chu Zhixing? His condition is very bad, but fortunately, you sent him here in time. The infirmary teacher was helpless. This child is actually quite pitiful. He's bullied every 2 to 3 days. Has he always been injected with drugs? He rarely comes to the infirmary because he's afraid of being seen. Bei Yunj was deep in thought. Chu Zhixing, who was sitting on the hospital bed, looked gloomy. He thought about how Bei Yunj had rejected him just now. Chapter 41. Was it because he was too weak that classmate Pei didn't want to get close to him? Are you hungry? Bei Yunj's voice sounded. Chu Zhixing looked up and saw Bei Yunj biting on a lollipop as she placed the snacks in the plastic bag in front of him. Thank you. Chu Zhixing was flattered. Bei Yunj's quiet eyes were lowered as if she was thinking about something. Chu Zhixing didn't dare to make a sound for a moment. Then she asked, Do you want me to protect you? Oh no. I can become stronger, and I can also protect classmate Pei. Chu Zhixing became less and less confident as he spoke. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened when she heard this. The corners of her lips slowly curled up, and she suddenly asked with interest, Do you know how to fight? Chu Zhixing's body stiffened, and he slowly lowered his head. Then how do you want to protect me? Bei Yunj smiled slowly. This wasn't the first time she heard someone say that he could protect her. However, she still felt a sense of anticipation that she hadn't felt in a long time. Back in the classroom, the class monitor asked Bei Yunj for her WeChat and invited her to join the class group. Only then did she remember this matter. She glanced at the WeChat account that the original owner used and chose to create a new account. After joining the group chat, Bei Yunj didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, she entered a phone number. A user with the nickname Du appeared. Seeing this, Bei Yunj's lips curled up a little and she exited the friend request. Her slender index finger tapped on the button to change the nickname. After thinking for a moment, she lazily entered a new name. Not long after, group. The phone on the desk suddenly vibrated. Huashidu picked up the phone without looking up. After opening the message, he opened his thin eyelids. His gaze fell lightly on the screen. Brother's little nightingale has requested to add you as a friend. After a while, Huashidu's eyes were so dark that it was hard to tell. He lowered his voice and laughed. Child, you're lawless. In the afternoon, as expected, Bei Yunj was called to the office again. She pushed the door open and entered. She saw a mature and steady middle-aged man sitting on the sofa, chatting with the principal. Principal, are you looking for me? When Bei Yunj smiled, her eyes were especially clear. It was hard to imagine that she was a student who would hurt others. Did you injure Chen Qingjun? The principal asked with a solemn expression. Back then, the Qin family had donated a building to Hengda in order to get this student in. However, when he heard the gossip later, he realized that she was not an illegitimate daughter of the Qin family or a child of some relationship. She was just a poor relative who wanted to rely on the Qin family and insisted that the Qin family transfer her to another school. Bei Yunj replied. What do your parents do? The middle-aged man in a suit asked. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows slightly. I grew up in an orphanage. Hearing this, the middle-aged man couldn't help but laugh. He seemed to think that she was bold. Then do you know who Chen Qingjun is? The future successor of the Qian family company. Student Pei, do you know the price you have to pay for your actions? The middle-aged man smiled with deep wrinkles, but his eyes were cold. Price? Bei Yunj asked. You want my son to kneel on the glass? I'll give you two choices. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. You can either be expelled or kneel on the glass. President Qian, this matter. The principal was also a little anxious. After all, the Qin family had donated a building. However, after President Qian glared at him, the principal could only shut up. Chapter 42. Class 1. Youjiao, does that poor relative of yours know? Someone ran towards Qin Youjiao excitedly. What? Qin Youjiao's eyes darkened. She beat up that Chen Qingjun. He's the rich young master who crippled a student and transferred to our school. The girl's tone was agitated. Qin Youjiao frowned. How is that possible? How could Bei Yunj beat Chen Qingjun? It's true. Now Chen Qingjun's father is here to settle scores with her. He's in the principal's office. A strange glint flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes and the corners of her lips twitched. I'm going to the washroom. Qin Youjiao stood up and walked towards the door. At the end of the corridor, Qin Youjiao called Mrs. Qin. Mrs. Qin picked up the call quickly and said gently, Jiao Jiao, aren't you in school? What's wrong? Mom, something seems to have happened to Bei Yunj in school. After Qin Youjiao told Mrs. Qin what she had heard, Mrs. Qin fell silent. Why don't you come to school? I don't want others to think that you're not good to your biological daughter. Qin Youjiao acted obedient. Jiao Jiao, go to class first. Mom will think about it. With that said, Mrs. Qin hung up the call. However, Qin Youjiao laughed, certain that Mrs. Qin would come. Of course, she was not doing this for Bei Yunj's sake. She wanted Mrs. Qin to see the difference between her and Bei Yunj. With Mrs. Qin's personality, she would only hate Bei Yunj even more. In the Qin family's old manor, Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin were on the phone. Her eyes were red and she broke down. I told you not to bring her back and just give her money. Look at how much face she has embarrassed me. Mr. Qin comforted her. Go and take a look first. I can't leave the company. I'm telling you, if she causes any more trouble for the family, I'll definitely chase her out. Mrs. Qin hung up the call and accidentally saw herself in the mirror. His face was filled with anger and disgust, causing her to be stunned. Pursing her lips, she picked up her bag and left. In the principal's office. Have you thought about it? Do you want to drop out of school or come back on your knees? Mr. Qian asked with a gloomy smile. If he hadn't seen with his own eyes how badly his son was injured, he would have thought that it was a prank. For so many years, no one had dared to treat his son like this. Uncle, are you threatening me? Bei Yunj's pretty eyes looked up, not showing any fear at all. Chairman Qian pursed his lips coldly. If you don't choose either of them, then I can only before he could finish his sentence. There was a knock on the door. Everyone turned around. They did not expect the person to be Mother Chin. "Mrs. Chin, why are you here?" The principal's eyelids twitched. He didn't expect Mother Chin to come in person. Could it be that this poor relative was very favored in the Chin family? When Mother Chin saw Bei Yunji's nonchalant expression, she became even angrier. She restrained her impulse, walked forward coldly, and grabbed Bei Yunji's arm. "Bei Yunj, do you not want to study at all? Do you want to be a good-for-nothing?" The temperature in Bei Yunji's eyes gradually dropped. "Mrs. Chin, please have some self-respect." Bei Yunj curled her lips into a half-smile and slowly pulled her hand away. Mother Chin saw this and couldn't help but laugh coldly. She was about to explode from Bei Yunji's stubborn attitude. "Mrs. Chin." Chairman Qian was also surprised when he saw Mother Chin. Didn't the student say that she grew up in an orphanage? Chapter 43. Mrs. Chin took a deep breath and adjusted her image back to that of an elegant lady. "President Qian." Mrs. Chin nodded slightly at President Qian. President Qian said, "This student is Mrs. Chin's." A trace of panic flashed past Mrs. Chin's eyes, but she forced herself to remain calm. "A girl I brought home some time ago." These words made Bei Yunj glance at her with a sneer, but she quickly looked away. Mrs. Chin had always doted on Qin Yojiao. She was even stronger than her other 3 brothers. Not to mention Bei Yunj, who came back halfway. Therefore, when Mr. Chin proposed to reveal Bei Yunj's identity, Mrs. Chin was the first to object. "I've heard about what happened between the two of you." Mrs. Chin took a deep breath and looked at Bei Yunj, saying expressionlessly, "If it's true, then let her bear the legal consequences." When she said this, Mrs. Chin kept staring at Bei Yunj. She was waiting for Bei Yunj to show weakness. Her hands were trembling. No matter what, this good-for-nothing person was her biological daughter. As long as Bei Yunj showed weakness, she would intervene and settle it. But in the future, she would transfer Bei Yunj to another school. She could not affect Jiao Jiao. At this moment, the door was suddenly kicked open. Qin Lang seemed to have run all the way here. He was panting and his short silver-gray hair was messy. "Where's Gu?" Qin Lang was called over by the principal. When he saw Mrs. Chin, he was also surprised. Mrs. Chin's expression was terrible. "Why you here?" Qin Lang's gaze gradually calmed down and he walked in front of Bei Yunj to face President Qian. "Do you have any evidence that Gur injured your son?" Qin Lang's tone was mocking and his handsome face was cold. "Qin Lang, shut up." Mrs. Chin's expression darkened. Qin Lang glanced at Mrs. Chin and snorted before he pulled Bei Yunj's hand. Let's go. Third brother will take you back." Qin Lang. Mrs. Chin's eyes were almost red. At this moment, Bei Yunj did not move and broke free from his hand. "I did," Bei Yunj said calmly. Qin Lang's body stiffened. It took him a while to react. Tears welled up in his eyes. Gu was already unwilling to forgive him. Even if she had to bear the consequences, Gu did not want to have anything to do with him. "Gu, don't be afraid. Third brother will protect you. I'm warning you, Qin Lang. You only have one sister, and she's in class 1. Mother Chin interrupted coldly. Suddenly, Mr. Qian said, "Since he's a relative of the Chin family, let's just treat it as a small fight. As long as this student is willing to apologize to my son and take a detour when he sees my son in the future, I will treat it as if nothing happened." Mrs. Chin's eyes flashed and she asked coldly, "Bei Yunj, do you admit your mistake?" "No need." Bei Yunj chuckled, and the corners of her bright red lips curled up. "Someone needs to drop out of school." Good. Bei Yunj, you're really capable." Mrs. Chin was so angry that her head was spinning. How could she have given birth to such a person? Why couldn't she compare to Jiao Jiao? "Student Pei, have you thought it through?" Gloominess flashed across Mr. Qian's eyes as he hid a cold smile. There weren't many people who would be stupid at this juncture. However, it was best if he could avenge his son. "Of course." Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and chuckled. Her slender index finger tapped lightly on the table. It was as if she was waiting for something. After that, before Mr. Chen could speak, 4 or 5 uniformed personnel suddenly rushed in. Hello, who is Chen Jinya? Please follow us back to the Institute for Investigation. Chapter 44. Boss Chen was stunned by this situation. Looking for him? But he hadn't called the police yet. Looking for me? But I haven't contacted you yet, President Chen couldn't help but say. Hearing this, the investigator chuckled. Your son's matter has already caused such a big commotion. How long will it take for you to contact us? Wait, what do you mean by that? President Chen suddenly felt that something was wrong. Mrs. Chen also frowned and subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. She still had a playful expression on her face. Mr. Chen, do you remember that your son's matter was also investigated by the police station last year? The investigator's eyes were filled with mockery. We didn't find any evidence of your son that time. But this time, the video of your son being a bully in school has spread on the school's Tieba forum. There are a total of 65 videos. Your son really doesn't do anything good in school. How is this possible? President Chen's face turned pale and his body froze. It's on the trending searches. Take a look for yourself on the way. The investigator looked at his watch. As his guardian, you should cooperate with the investigation now. It was indeed strange to talk about this matter. That trending search was ranked first after the top 3. Later, they wanted to take it down first to avoid aggravating the public's feelings, but the entire list was like a bug. They couldn't move it at all. As for the school's Tieba forum, they couldn't delete it even after contacting the administrator. This matter must have been caused by Qian Jinya provoking someone he shouldn't have. He had kicked an iron board. In those videos that were posted, only the images of the victims were mosaicked. Qian Qingjuan's face was so clear that it was difficult to deny. Comrade, is this really not a misunderstanding? My son's matter last year has already been closed. The investigator sneered, his eyes cold. Closed? That child is still lying in the hospital. You think you can get his life back just by compensating him with some money? Hearing this, President Qian's mind was in a mess. His gaze happened to sweep across Bei Yunj. His eyes were bloodshot as he said fiercely, "You did it. Am I right?" "What nonsense are you talking about?" Qin Lang's face was cold as he stood in front of Bei Yunj. "Comrade, it's her. She's definitely the one who harmed my son. She sent my son to the hospital today. She should be the one to be arrested. Mr. Qian only had one son, and he doted on him a lot. How could he bear to see his son go to jail?" When the investigator saw Bei Yunj, he couldn't help but frown. Was Qian Jinya crazy? How could a high school student have the ability to hack the entire internet? "Classmate, was it you who sent Qian Qingjun to the hospital?" The investigator picked one that was still possible. Bei Yunj's red lips curled up calmly. Qian Qingjuan's injuries were not serious. In fact, the most he would receive was financial compensation. However, just as everyone was still in a daze, another voice suddenly sounded from the door. "Classmate Pei hit him because he wanted to help me." Bei Yunj's fingertips moved slightly, and her charming and bright eyes moved to Chu Zhixing, whose face was flushed because he had run over. "Brat, do you know what you're talking about?" President Qian's face darkened. Chu Zhixing gritted his teeth and took off his school uniform shirt in front of them. The boy's fair skin was full of frightening bruises. "I'm not lying." Chu Zhixing's expression was stubborn, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they were trembling. This scene made Mrs. Qin's expression change. She couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. Chapter 45. The emotions in her eyes were complicated, as if she didn't expect that she would wrongly accuse Bei Yunj. "You two brats." President Qian seemed to have been forced into a corner and flew into a rage out of humiliation. "President Qian, aren't you taking the Qin family too lightly?" Qin Lang's gaze turned cold and threatening. President Qian's body stiffened. The Qin family was still not to be trifled with. As for Qin Mu's mother, she did not say anything after glancing at Qin Lang. The investigator asked the principal, "Principal, what do you think of the rest of the matter?" The principal quickly replied, Okay, sorry to trouble you." In the end, Before President Qian left, his face was ashen as he glanced at Bei Yunj. When he saw her smiling red lips and waving at him, the taste of blood welled up in his throat. He was so angry that his brain swelled. After everyone left, Mrs. Qin pursed her lips and stood in front of Bei Yunj. "Why didn't you tell me clearly? You believed me just because I said so?" Bei Yunj looked at her calmly and chuckled. Mrs. Qin was stunned by her words. "If there's nothing else, I'll go back to the classroom." Before Bei Yunj walked out of the principal's office, she heard Mrs. Qin ask in a deep voice, "Are you not going home? My surname is not Qin. Where do you want me to go?" Bei Yunj's tone was lazy, but there was no smile in her eyes. In the long corridor, Chu Zhixing tidied up his school uniform and immediately chased after Bei Yunj. He followed behind her at a distance. And Bei Yunj did not turn her head. Then, just as Chu Zhixing was wondering why he had walked here, he saw Bei Yunj in front of him climb over the 2-meter-high wall and leave the school. Chu Zhixing? 10 minutes later, Chu Zhixing, who had tried to climb over the wall, ended up in failure. He returned to class dejectedly. Class 7. Isn't Qian Qingjuan's matter too big? I heard from someone I know that all the videos taken by Qian Qingjun have been released. And what's even more ruthless is that until now, our school's Tieba and the trending searches on the internet can't be removed. It's directly controlled by someone and there's a bug. Is it a hacker? It's so awesome. I don't know. Anyway, no matter who you provoke, you can't provoke a big shot in the computing field. Do you think it's a student from our school? What a joke. Cheng Zihuai is the one who does the most computer research in our school. With Cheng Zihuai's level, he can only be beaten up by such a god-level big shot. Chu Zhixing, who had just returned to the classroom, blinked. Bei Yunj's face inexplicably appeared in his mind. Could it be her? Chu Zhixing unconsciously clenched his fists. If he was really Bei Yunj, how long would it take for him to grow to that level? Outside the school, Bei Yunj leaned lazily against the wall, her posture unrestrained. Her eyes leisurely glanced at the trending topics, her fingertips jumping on the iPad screen. Not long after, unknowingly, the hot searches and the school's Tieba regained their order. When the bell rang, Bei Yunj's figure appeared in front of the students of Class 7. She threw the plastic bag in her hand onto Chu Zhixing's table and returned to her seat. This scene made Lu Yuanxi, who had not been in the mood to sleep all afternoon, frown. Even Chu Zhixing was stunned. After opening the plastic bag, he found 2 bottles of Dita wine. He lowered his head and his expression could not be seen clearly. "Thank you." Bei Yunj, who was sitting in front of Chu Zhixing, responded. She picked up her pen again and scribbled down the knowledge points of Year 2 physics. After Lu Yuanxi caught a glimpse of it, he suddenly felt a sense of crisis. Chapter 46. Then, just when the students next to him thought that Brother Lu would definitely show some concern for his new deskmate after waiting for so long, Brother Lu turned his head and took out a physics textbook from the back of the table. He then took out a piece of paper and a pen and quickly copied the physics punishment. If Bei Yunj handed in the punishment and he didn't even move a single word, he would definitely be torn apart by that old man. Everyone looked at their new deskmates. Until school ended, Bei Yunj was still resting her cheek on her hand as she slowly copied the notes. Lu Yuanxi couldn't help but ask, "Are you not going home?" His hands were numb from writing. Bei Yunj didn't even look up. "It's still early." Suddenly, classmate Pei, let me help you copy." Chu Zhixing mustered up his courage and asked. "No need." Bei Yunj's hand stopped, then he capped the pen and prepared to go back. Seeing this, Lu Yuanxi also heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, he didn't have to copy anymore. "Aren't you going home?" Bei Yunj suddenly asked Chu Zhixing, which made Lu Yuanxi frown. Although this deskmate of his looked cold and arrogant and ignorant, wasn't he too soft-hearted? Chu Zhixing pursed his lips and looked at Bei Yunj, wanting to say something but hesitating. "Then I'll leave first." Bei Yunj said this and prepared to leave. "Classmate Pei, are you going home?" "Then I'll send you." Before Chu Zhixing could finish speaking, he heard Bei Yunj say lazily, "I'm going to the bar. Do you want to come?" Bei Yunj glanced at him and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. However, just as he walked to the school gate, he suddenly saw a familiar figure. The man was tall and handsome. The sleeves of his clean white shirt were rolled up to his elbows in a refined and elegant manner. His long, straight legs under his suit pants were so abstinent that it made one's imagination run wild. His pale-colored eyes scanned the surroundings lightly, but his gaze was as cold as the moon. The passers-by couldn't help but peek, but they didn't dare to go forward. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Why was he here? Student Pei, what are you looking at? Chu Zhixing, who had made up his mind to catch up, couldn't help but ask when he saw Bei Yunj standing by the side of the road. However, before he could finish his question, Bei Yunj pulled him aside. He also hid behind a tree. Are you hiding from that person? Chu Zhixing was stunned for a while before he reacted. Bei Yunj responded absent-mindedly. However, she was thinking about how she was going to meet Yu Manran at the bar now. That's your brother? Chu Zhixing's gaze was pure. When he saw that Bei Yunj did not refute him, he cautiously said, Classmate Pei, since your brother is here, you should go home with him. Hearing this, a dark light flashed across Bei Yunj's eyes, and her red lips curled up slightly. She looked at him with her beautiful eyes and seemed to be in a difficult position. Actually, I haven't thought about how to face him yet. Did you quarrel with your brother? Chu Zhixing asked. No, I have a brother complex. Look at my brother's appearance. It's easy for me to lose control. Bei Yunj's cat-like clear eyes were lazy and frivolous. When the young and ignorant Chu Zhixing heard this, he was immediately petrified. Wait a minute, was this what he was imagining? Classmate Chu, can you help me ask him to go back first? Bei Yunj curled her lips. When I've thought it through, I'll go back immediately. What do you think? Chu Zhixing glanced at Bei Yunj and immediately mustered up his courage and made up his mind. He couldn't watch such an illogical thing happen with his own eyes. Chapter 47. Okay. Chu Zhixing straightened his back and walked towards Huashidu, who was waiting not far away. Well, when he got closer, Chu Zhixing inexplicably became terrified. Huashidu heard the commotion and glanced at him. At this moment, when Chu Zhixing saw Huashidu's face clearly, he almost thought that they were a couple. Student Pei's brother was too good-looking, wasn't he? What kind of godly looks was this? What's the matter? Huashidu put his phone back into his pocket and asked. I'm Bei Yunj's classmate. She said she's not around. Chu Zhixing's brain froze and he blurted out. These words made Huashidu's gaze deepen. He raised his eyes and looked at him. However, there was a hint of aggression in his nonchalant gaze. Is that so? Chu Zhixing, who had just reacted, was speechless. It was over. He was going to be beaten up. Actually, Chu Zhixing's little heart trembled slightly, but he did not forget to defend Bei Yunj. Actually, Student Pei didn't mean to not see you. After speaking, he lost his courage and said with a firm gaze, Student Pei is very kind. She doesn't want the two of you to get hurt. That's why she wants to calm down. These words made Huashidu take another look at Chu Zhixing. He smiled silently. Hurt each other? Student Pei's brother, you don't understand Student Pei's feelings for you. She really likes you. It's not the kind of love between family members. Chu Zhixing was immersed in his own world and felt more and more sincere. If you really like this sister, please take good care of her. As soon as he finished speaking, Huashidu roughly understood what was going on. After a while, he chuckled softly. Then the Huashidu put out the cigarette and threw it away indifferently. The corners of his upturned eyes were charming and his tone was playful and lazy. Where is she? I'll go and tell her now that she's actually adopted. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing's body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. In an instant his brain froze. Bei Yunj, who was standing behind the tree, kicked a small stone in boredom. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of her. Seeing this, Bei Yunj raised her head and was about to thank Chu Zhixing. However, she did not expect that the person she saw would be Huashidu. She paused for 2 seconds before smiling brightly again. Brother, why are you here? The man's gaze fell on her unwaveringly. A short while later, Bei Yunj saw him leaning closer. The man's cold fingertips rubbed against her cheek in an ambiguous manner, and his thin red lips lifted slightly. His voice was seductive, as if it could stir the wind beside her ears. Come and feel Yunyun's feelings for her brother. Bei Yunj froze. Then he immediately realized that the matter just now might have been exposed. I was just playing with my classmates. Big brother, are you here to pick me up? Bei Yunj's eyes curved, but she quietly avoided eye contact. Hoshidu did not mind her small actions. He gently rubbed his fingers that were still warm. Okay. Was the little girl's face so soft? Big brother, actually, I have something on today. Bei Yunj had promised Yu Manran that he would give her a demo today. Hoshidu took in her obedient expression. His laughter was low and hoarse, but it made one's eardrums itch. Okay, then I'll send you there. Bei Yunj, ? In the end, Bei Yunj changed the location to a bookstore near the bar. Chapter 48. However, as soon as Bei Yunj entered, she regretted it. She looked up and saw Cheng Zihuai flipping through computer books. Cheng Zihuai was handsome and attracted the attention of many girls. When Bei Yunj saw him, she was about to leave when he noticed her. His gaze turned cold and his eyes were arrogant as he mocked her. Bei Yunj, I thought you knew your place. I didn't expect you to find me here. He was even more impressed with her stalking skills than before. Bei Yunj's eyes moved and she glanced at the police station opposite her. She dispelled the thought that had just risen in her mind. Bei Yunj was about to leave. However, Cheng Zihuai stepped forward to stop Bei Yunj and looked at her mockingly. Playing hard to get and creating a chance encounter? Bei Yunj, have you forgotten that you don't like to come to bookstores at all? This person had really put in a lot of effort to attract his attention. Bei Yunj restrained the impatience in her eyes and seemed to have thought of something as she chuckled. She looked up with a flirtatious gaze. Yes. Seeing Bei Yunj admit it so openly, Cheng Zihuai didn't know what to say for a moment. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's gaze turned to the door and the corners of her lips curled up. Who asked me to like the brother outside so much? Hearing this, Cheng Zihuai frowned, thinking that Bei Yunj was deliberately saying this for him to hear. Bei Yunj, you don't have to deliberately provoke me. His tone was cold and disdainful. Don't you know very well in your heart who I like? Bei Yunj looked at him calmly and raised her beautiful eyes slightly. Young Master Cheng, do I have to know what a piece of trash thinks? The original owner liked Cheng Zihuai and was willing to suffer a lot for him. But according to her temper, she could only send Cheng Zihuai to the junkyard and let him be a piece of trash. These words made Cheng Zihuai's face turn red. He gritted his teeth. Bei Yunj. Was this woman crazy? The things that she had done in the past 2 days were things that she had never dared to do before. If you have nothing to do in the future, look in the mirror more often. Bei Yunj said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes as he enjoyed his angry look. After saying this, she glanced at the time and walked directly to the coffee bar on the second floor of the bookstore. This scene made Cheng Zihuai angry, but he also remembered what Bei Yunj had said just now. It's all because I like the brother outside so much. He couldn't help but sneer. I want to see what kind of man is out there. With that, Cheng Zihuai turned around and walked out with a dark face. There were so many people coming and going on the road that it was dazzling. Just as Cheng Zihuai was mocking her in his heart and disdaining Bei Yunj's words, he suddenly saw a black Rolls-Royce. The man sat by the car window. His facial features were well-defined, and his posture was lazy and carefree. He couldn't hide his elegance. Coincidentally, just as Cheng Zihuai's body stiffened, Hoshidu seemed to have sensed his gaze. His casual gaze exuded a faint sense of oppression, making Cheng Zihuai feel even more uncomfortable. Hoshidu was the first to look away. It was obvious that he didn't take Cheng Zihuai seriously. He just leaned back lazily, opened the cigarette box between his slender fingers, and lit a cigarette. Only then did Cheng Zihuai react. He immediately turned his face away in a sorry state. For the first time, he felt inferior. Was this the man Bei Yunj was talking about? Impossible. How could Bei Yunj know such a man? Chapter 49. Cheng Zihuai dismissed this thought and told himself that it was just a coincidence that Bei Yunj was here. He took a deep breath and left the bookstore with a sullen expression. Meanwhile, Hua Shidu, who was sitting in the car, was obviously waiting for someone for the first time. He raised his eyebrows slightly and tugged at his tie impatiently. Who did this young lady meet? Why did they have to talk for so long? At the coffee bar on the second floor of the bookstore, Yuman Ran, who had walked in, felt strange. She thought that after she graduated from university, she would never appear in this place again. Miss Pei? Yuman Ran found Bei Yunj. This is a demo. Listen to it and start arranging if you think it's good. Bei Yunj handed the Bluetooth to her. Yuman Ran immediately took it. After listening to the demo for 40 to 50 seconds, surprise appeared in her eyes. She couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. This girl who looked to be in her 20s was as good as those big shots who had won awards overseas. May I know who Miss Pei learned this from? Bei Yunj stopped what she was doing and returned to normal after a while. My grandfather. In her previous life, her grandfather was a famous musician both at home and abroad. However, he had taught her classical music. As for arranging pop music, she had learned it from a friend who was an artist. Yuman Ran was envious. Miss Pei's grandfather must be a gentle and kind person. Otherwise, how could he have taught you to be so outstanding? Bei Yunj looked up with interest and smiled faintly. Because there's a feather duster on our piano. Yuman Ran, it sounded like such a refined family, but why was it so down to earth? When Bei Yunj was young, she had always been unruly and unbridled. However, which elder could handle a good-looking and smart child? Especially a child like Bei Yunj who was bad and sweet-tongued. The terrible things she did always made Grandpa Pei so angry that his teeth itched, but he couldn't bear to really hit her. So, Yuman Ran had decided on this demo, but before he could chat with Bei Yunj's phone vibrated. Miss Yu, please go back first. Yunj, can I add you on WeChat? Yuman Ran asked a little embarrassedly. Sure. Bei Yunj reported a string of numbers and waited for Yuman Ran to leave before answering the phone in the aisle of the bookstore. Yunj, your grandfather's condition has improved a little. He will return to the old mansion this Friday. Mr. Qin added, Grandpa wants to see you. It could be said that the old man was determined to go back to the old house only to see Bei Yunj. Otherwise, he wouldn't cooperate with the treatment. This was because Grandpa Sheng had found out about Bei Yunj's hospitalization when he woke up. The old master was furious. Got it. I'll go. Bei Yunj said calmly and distantly. Mr. Qin seemed to be silent for a while. Jiao Jiao is going on a piano concert tour soon. The media will pay more attention to her family situation. Can you persuade your grandfather to let Jiao Jiao stay in the old mansion? Almost no one outside knew that as the eldest young lady of the Qin family, Qin Youjiao could only stay in a nearby hotel every time she returned to the old mansion. Because of that time, Mrs. Qin had reprimanded Bei Yunj for Qin Youjiao. The old master completely hated Qin Youjiao. Bei Yunj smirked and laughed recklessly. Do I look like someone easy to deal with? These words made Mr. Qin's expression darken and anger gathered in his chest. Do you know how much Jiao Jiao has lost when you came back? Chapter 50. Hearing this, Bei Yunj leaned against the wall leisurely and laughed. I don't want to know and don't make me unhappy. Otherwise, Grandpa will know whose biological father the head of that hospital is. Do you think Grandpa will chase Qin Youjiao away? Mr. Qin froze and anger gathered in his chest. Are you threatening me? He never thought that since when did Bei Yunj dare to resist him openly. Just, if you don't want her to get lost, don't make me angry. Bei Yunj tilted her head lazily, her red lips curling up brightly and impudently. After leaving the bookstore, Bei Yunj looked up and saw the man by the car window. Her mood immediately improved. The two buttons on the handsome and dignified man's collar were unbuttoned. His fair and clean neckline followed the loose collar and fell into his sexy and muscular chest. His light gaze looked indifferent, but it was enough to make one's legs turn weak. Brother, my dear has fainted. When are you going to take responsibility? The bright and flamboyant girl had one hand on the window, her cat-like eyes shining as she rested her cheek on her hand and smiled. Hoshidu turned around and saw the little girl lying by the window like a cat doing evil. His magnetic voice sounded with a low chuckle. The man's slender hand scratched the girl's chin lazily. Ask it why it bumped into me the moment it saw me. Pei Yunja's chin was scratched twice. Even the ruthlessness in her eyes that had just been suppressed disappeared inexplicably. She returned to the front passenger seat and changed the topic. Brother, did you wait for a long time? 47 minutes. The man said carelessly. Bei Yunj fell silent. Fortunately, a call came in from the man's phone and the atmosphere was no longer silent. Hoshidu pressed the answer button, his tone indifferent. What's the matter? Master Du, you haven't been to the clubhouse for a few days. Are you coming today? I'm not free. Hoshidu's eyes were lazy and he did not feel guilty at all when he rejected her. What are you busy with? Master Du, let me tell you, the girls in the clubhouse are very pretty recently. Even if you don't touch them, you should at least come and take a look and relax. I'm picking up a little girl from school. With that said, Bei Yunj, who was beside him, glanced sideways at him and then turned to look out of the window. Her sudden obedient appearance made the man's thin lips curl up unconsciously. Even the noise in the earpiece didn't sound so annoying anymore. Master Du, isn't it a little boy? Shidu. He's not mine. Shidu's words made the person on the other end to the phone call. Master Du, although I'm not a good person, we still need to have the heart to protect the seedlings. He really didn't expect that Master Du, who usually didn't get involved with women, would do everything in their power to enter the Hua family. She hasn't even gone through puberty yet. She doesn't have any feminine charm at all. The things in your head are abnormal. You can change them as soon as possible. Hoshidu sneered and said indifferently. He smiled. So it's not what I thought. Master Du, come early. What trouble can a little girl have? The man let out a long laugh and said slowly, Don't worry. Little girls don't know their place. Bei Yunj turned to look at him. Chapter 51. Even Hoshidu did not notice that there was a hint of indulgence in his casual tone. Master Du, you can even take care of such a child? The person on the other end of the phone seemed to be in disbelief. It was not that he had never seen Master Du take care of a child. Every time he saw the young master of the Hua family working hard to use his short legs to catch up with the calm Hoshidu in front of him, his heart ached a little. At this moment, when Hoshidu heard this, his gaze swept over Bei Yunj unhurriedly. His gaze was fixed on her as his happy low laughter suddenly floated into her ears. His magnetic voice was lazy and sexy. It's a little overwhelming. Bei Yunj, she had a feeling that this man was not human. That night, Bei Yunj had just fallen asleep when she was woken up by the dream of the past. The girl's forehead was covered in sweat. The last trace of embarrassment disappeared from her deep eyes as she gradually woke up. A few minutes later, she still got out of bed and washed her face. She walked to Hoshidu's door and knocked. After a long while, the door opened. The man seemed to have just woken up. His cold eyes were filled with laziness. He was wearing a dark-colored nightgown. The half-open collar revealed his firm and sexy chest, and his belt was loosely tied. The man's Adam's apple moved. His voice was hoarse from waking up, and his eyes were deep. It was even more deadly than usual. Bei Yunj reacted and asked with a smile, Brother, did you sleep well? The man lifted his eyelids and his hoarse voice sounded. It was hopelessly sexy. Are you planning to tell me that the air conditioner in your room is broken? She had really met an expert. The girl in front of him was silent, as if she was planning to return to her room obediently. Hoshidu noticed that the girl's beautiful eyes were abnormally red. She no longer had her usual smile. He spoke again. Can't sleep? Bei Yunj was about to turn her head when she heard this. She looked up at him again. At this moment, Hoshidu suddenly remembered how Bei Yunj slept soundly on his lap last time. He seemed to understand. The corners of his thin red lips curled up as he deliberately teased her. You can't sleep, So you came to me to play hooligan? For a moment, Bei Yunj couldn't refute. Her beautiful eyes moved. Suddenly, Huashidu said, "Try changing rooms with me?" Bei Yunj glanced at him subconsciously. When she came back to her senses, she nodded. Just as Bei Yunj was caught off guard, the man pinched her face frivolously. There was a hint of punishment in his tone. "You came to knock on my door dressed like this? Don't think that I don't bully you." The corners of his upturned eyes were seductive, and his nonchalant look made her blush even more. It was only when the man's eyes moved away indifferently and left his room that Bei Yunj finally realized what was going on. She glanced at her pajamas that she had forgotten to button properly. However, she only reached out and touched her chest. The corner of her lips curled up. Something really happened. When this man flirted with her, it was too intoxicating. After entering the room, Bei Yunj couldn't help but glance at the decorations around her. It was just like Huashidu's style. It was simple and clean. There was even red wine on the table under the floor-to-ceiling glass window. It seemed to be used by men to help them sleep. Bei Yunj had just laid down on the bed when the original owner's faint, cold and pleasant scent invaded her senses from the dark gray pillow blanket. It was inexplicably reassuring. Not long after, Bei Yunj felt sleepy. But then, she didn't know which insensible person had called her in the wee hours of the morning. Chapter 52. Bei Yunj took a deep breath, suppressing the coldness in her eyes as she took the phone from the bedside table. "What's the matter?" Her slightly cold voice did not sound like she had a good temper. Inexplicably, Marcus, who was on the phone, felt frightened. "There's a young man in the same city as you recently. He's quite experienced and I want to find someone to guide him." "Miss Pei, aren't you short of money? Why don't you guide him?" Bei Yunj said coldly. "He's very rich. I wonder if you know him? He's the heir of the Chung Corporation, Cheng Zihuai." Marcus immediately explained and tried to please her. Of course, he did not care about this bit of money, but he knew that Bei Yunj was short of money. Anyway, regardless of whether she stayed in their research institute or not, the big boss could not be provoked. If he could please her, he would please her first. At this moment, Bei Yunj sneered when she heard this familiar name. She smirked and said in a mocking tone, "Let him wash up and sleep." With that said, Bei Yunj hung up the call. In another country, in the research institute, Marcus was perplexed. The big boss's temper was indeed hard to understand. "How is it? What did the big boss say?" The woman beside him could not suppress her excitement. "Big boss, let him wash up and sleep." Marcus's eyelid twitched. The woman was silent for a moment before she said, "Then forget it. Anyway, it was to find a chance for the big boss to give money." Marcus said worriedly. The big boss's tone just now didn't seem too good. But the woman froze. At this moment, the researcher at the table next to them chuckled. "In their country, it's midnight now." It was over. Marcus glared at him. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The next day, Qin Yojiao was practicing the piano in the school's piano room. The smooth piano sound made people's mood gradually improve. After Qin Yojiao finished playing, Cheng Zihuai looked at her and asked with a smile, "Is this a new piece?" "Yes, how do you feel?" Qin Yojiao's eyes were filled with confidence. It had to be said that Qin Yojiao was very talented in this aspect. It was no wonder that people outside said that Qin Yojiao was a talented young pianist. "It's very nice." Cheng Zihuai smiled and reached out to scratch her nose again. "Zihuai, are you still unhappy because the people from the Foreign Research Institute didn't accept you?" Qin Yojiao saw that there was still coldness in his eyes. "The people from the Research Institute said that they have an external researcher in our city. I wanted him to take me, but he refused." Cheng Zihuai was a little cold and frustrated. He had never suffered any setbacks in the field of computing. Even the computer science teacher he hired thought that he would be able to shine in the future. However, the external researcher did not even give him a chance. Does it have to be him? Qin Yojiao's tone was arrogant as she snorted. "What right does he have to look down on others? If he's the same age as you, Zihuai, His talent is definitely not as good as yours. I heard from the vice president that this external researcher is very impressive. Everyone in the institute treats him like a treasure. A dark and determined look flashed across Qing Zihuai's eyes. I must make him accept me. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao said arrogantly. All right. However, Zihuai, when that person finds out about your talent, he will definitely regret not accepting you back then. The gloominess on Qing Zihuai's face dissipated and he said with a smile, how's your relationship with your third brother recently? Chapter 53. A dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes as she smiled. It's all right. Qing Zihuai asked. I heard that he came to school for Bei Yunj? Qin Yojiao clenched her fists a little, but pretended not to care and said, her parents' number is third brothers. These words made a trace of disgust flash past Qing Zihuai's eyes. Did Bei Yunj want others to know about her relationship with the Qin family so much? Qin Yojiao looked at him and smiled arrogantly. Her tone was contemptuous. Don't worry, I'll let everyone know that the Qin family only has one irreplaceable Qin Yojiao. What could Bei Yunj do? She was lousy in every way and could only be a joke. At this thought, Qin Yojiao suddenly smirked and opened her social media app to post a status. Qin Yojiao, it's a new song, cute. Not long after she posted it. Some fans congratulated her and some even Qin Lang. Crush Qin Lang, our sister's tour is about to start. Promote it quickly. Sister is too good. She's omnipotent. Aren't you going to prove your nickname of the crazy sister doting demon? Doghead, crush Qin Lang. Ah, Jiao Jiao, look at me. I'm your third sister-in-law. The little princess of the Qin family is so prestigious. I'm so jealous. Seeing these comments, the corners of Qin Yojiao's lips curled up uncontrollably as her vanity was satisfied. A trace of ridicule flashed past her eyes. So what if she was his biological daughter? She was not presentable at all. At the training base. Brother Lang, look. You and your sister are on the trending searches again. The team member said excitedly. My sister? Hearing this, Qin Lang's eyes lit up and he snatched his phone away to open the trending searches. Hashtag Qin Lang, Qin Yojiao hashtag Qin Yojiao's piano tour hashtag and other terms were already in the top 10. However, when Qin Lang saw this name, his expression darkened. You're talking about her? His tone was not good. Hearing this, the team member was amused. Brother Lang, you have other sisters? Hearing this, Qin Lang wanted to say something but hesitated, his handsome expression turning even uglier. Actually, he had not mentioned Qin Yojiao much, but Qin Yojiao's piano tour had always been popular. Since he never intended to hide it, he didn't take it seriously even when it was exposed. But now, Qin Lang realized that what originally belonged to her had become Qin Yojiao's. Qin Lang's expression didn't look too good. He didn't explain to his team members either. Instead, he expressionlessly logged into the account that he had not logged in for 2 years. He glanced at the people who tagged him and couldn't help but chuckle. A short while later, the people who had been waiting for Qin Lang's response finally noticed his movements. However, after reading it, everyone felt that something was amiss. Crush Qin Lang. I really want to be blacklisted. Aggrieved, image. JPG. The fan clicked on the screenshot of the chat. She realized that the nickname Qin Lang had given her was good. Qin Lang sent 2 messages in a row, but the other party did not respond. There were even red exclamation marks on the messages. A third brother was wrong. Burying her head and crying bitterly. JPG. The fans who saw this post immediately exploded. Who is Gur? Who would have thought that Boss Lang would have such a day? Wait a minute, Qin Lang is this girl's third brother? But Qin Yojiao doesn't have a nickname. Everyone suddenly realized what was going on. However, not long after. Qin Lang's mother called and questioned Qin Lang with a sharp voice. Qin Lang, who told you to send that chat record? Qin Lang didn't care at all and said with a chuckle, they said that I dote on Qin Yojiao, so I have to clarify it. Chapter 54. I think you're crazy. Qin Lang, if you don't delete it for me, do you believe that I'll take Jiao Jiao away? Seeing that Mrs. Qin was so stubborn, Qin Lang frowned. Mom, do you not know who your biological daughter is? Mrs. Qin suppressed her anger. Qin Lang, if people find out that Bei Yunj is your younger sister, apart from embarrassing you, what good can happen? She smiled and said, Jiao Jiao has been outstanding in all aspects since she was young. She played the piano when she was 19 years old. Qin Lang, do you know that it's your blessing to have such a sister? Hearing this, Qin Lang's expression darkened. However, his heart wavered. It was not because he felt that Ge would be embarrassed, but he was also afraid that others would compare Ge to Qin Youjiao. He didn't want Ge to be criticized by so many people. After a long while, Qin Lang took a deep breath. Mom, you're the one who shouldn't mention this the most. Don't you have any responsibility for Ge becoming like this? You only know that Qin Youjiao wants to please you, but why don't you know that this originally belonged to Ge? She wouldn't have been like this. My responsibility? Mrs. Qin's elegant voice became sharp. Do you think I want to carry the wrong child? But why don't you think about it? I've doted on Jiao Jiao as my daughter for so many years. Now you're telling me that I've carried the wrong child? A girl I've never met is my daughter. How can I accept this? At the end of the day, you think that Ge can't compare to Qin Youjiao. Can she compare to her? She doesn't look like someone from our Qin family at all. She cheated in exams and caused trouble in school. She can only embarrass me and your father. Mrs. Qin mocked softly. I can't hurt Jiao Jiao's heart because of her. Qin Lang fell silent. Even if he heard these words, he felt a stab of pain. Not to mention Ge. He chuckled. Sure. Soon. Before Mrs. Qin could heave a sigh of relief, she heard Qin Lang say carelessly. You don't love her, but I do. I'll give Ge 10 times or 100 times how much you dote on Qin Youjiao and dote on her like a princess. Qin. Anger gathered in Mrs. Qin's eyes, but before she could finish speaking, the call was hung up. At the training base, Qin Lang looked at this post and thought for a long time before deleting it. He clicked on his follow list and unfollowed Qin Youjiao. This move made the fans confused. What's going on? What happened to Crush just now? F***CK, my husband's 12 followers have become 11. Who is so pitiful to be unfollowed by my husband? You might not believe it, but it seems to be Qin Youjiao. What? Qin Youjiao is unlocked? Why do I feel like this is even stranger? Is Qin Youjiao really the little princess of the Qin family? However, not long after the fans discussed, Qin Youjiao's fans started to flood the comments. Normal siblings, please don't read too much into it. The Qin family only has one little princess, Rabbit. You want to defame my Jiao Jiao just because of a screenshot? Besides Qin Youjiao, does the Qin family have any other daughters? Even if she does, she can't compare to our Jiao Jiao. Qin Lang smiled when he saw these messages. Jiao, your father. After saying that, Qin Lang started to pull Qin Youjiao's fans into a frenzy. Not long after, Qin Youjiao's fans, who had originally planned to post a few more comments, realized that they could not comment. Hengda High School. Brother Lu, you're amazing. With these dark circles under your eyes, did you go on a date with a young lady yesterday? Hearing this, Lu Yuanxi resisted the urge to scold someone and glanced at Bei Yunj coldly. Chapter 55. Hearing this, Lu Yuanxi resisted the urge to scold her and glanced coldly at Bei Yunj. If it weren't for this person, she would have finished copying in class yesterday. He wouldn't have had to write all night last night. Thinking of this, Lu Yuanxi was even more confused about Bei Yunj. She kicked over Ling Jiwei's desk in front of the Dean of Teaching and even sent Qian Qingjun to the hospital. She was unruly, but she copied the physics teacher's punishment seriously and diligently. Student Pei seemed to have become prettier recently. Hearing the voice behind him, Lu Yuanxi frowned. Why didn't he know that Chu Zhixing was so good at talking? However, when he turned his head impatiently and happened to meet the girl's side profile, he couldn't help but be stunned. Previously, he also knew that his new desk mate was very beautiful. However, There was a faint layer of red at the corners of her eyes, and she didn't look like someone to be trifled with. In the past 2 days, Bei Yunja's face was glowing, and her already bright eyes were even more languid. Suddenly, he heard the person next to him say without blushing, "Little Chu, you have to say something that others don't know." Lu Yuanxi, soon after class. The physics teacher received 2 neat copies of the punishment and was very gratified. He held a copy of the penalty slip in each hand and smiled. "Do you see this? Whether you're the school bully or the school belle, Zhao Yi will never miss a punishment." Lu Yuanxi, Bei Yunj. Teacher Zhao Yi had always been impartial, and everyone knew that. However, what surprised everyone this time was that Teacher Zhao Yi had actually chosen Bei Yunj as the class representative this semester. All along, Teacher Zhao Yi's class representative had always been the one with the highest score in the class. This made the girl who had been the physics class representative for a year and a half suddenly have a bad expression on her face. She looked at Bei Yunj again. After class, the girl walked up to Bei Yunj unhappily. Then, before the girl could see clearly, Bei Yunj stuffed the iPad back into the drawer. The girl suppressed the gloominess in her eyes and said with a fake smile, "Student Pei, if I have any physics questions in the future, can I ask you for advice?" In fact, everyone could roughly guess Bei Yunj's results. She came from the worst high school in the city. It was already good enough that she could keep up with their school's progress. How could she be a top student? She asked Bei Yunj this question. "What do you think?" Bei Yunj smirked and looked at her calmly. As to say, the girl's eyes met Bei Yunj's unconsciously and she immediately froze. It was as if all her thoughts were seen through. The girl to be. At this moment, Bei Yunj had already picked up the extracurricular book on the iPad. She laughed leisurely and walked out of the classroom. She did not have the time to waste on arguing with a high school student. After you to be. Ling to be to bei, to the ling to do, ti to be to teat. She cheated in the exam and relied on her family to get into our class. When she enters society in the future, she won't even be able to climb into our circle. At the door, Bei Yunj found it troublesome to type, so she called Marcus directly. "Miss Pei, why are you calling me?" Marcus couldn't suppress his excitement. "Did you just say that you know the Medical Research Institute?" Chapter 56. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. How professional are they? They're definitely the best in the world. You'll know just by looking at their hairline, huh? Marcus touched his lush short hair and couldn't help but gloat. "Are there any neurologists?" Bei Yunj asked. The original owner's grandfather had an intracranial tumor. Although she was not the original owner, she was living in her place now, so she would naturally think of ways to make up for the original owner's regrets. Of course, the neurologists who won the highest medical award previously were from their research institute. With that said, Marcus could not help but ask, "However, that guy only performs 10 surgeries a year. No one can break his rule." But hearing this, Marcus said with a smile, "This guy is simply a lunatic. He's focused on research and doesn't like to repeat the same surgery." He then asked, "By the way, Miss Pei, you should know some medicine, right?" The paper Bei Yunj submitted that time had a lot of medical knowledge. Even the people from the Medical Research Institute next door felt that this was a ruthless person after reading it. "I studied a little in university," Bei Yunj said with a smile. "Can you help me send the thing I gave you last time to that neurologist's? This is a project that can be implemented. As long as he wants, I can send him the follow-up at any time." In her previous life, Bei Yunj had been influenced by physics and computing because of her mother since she was young. So when she was in the junior class, she majored in biomedical engineering. Using computer technology, she had developed a medical detection machine that was popularized by many hospitals. Marcus sucked in a breath of cold air and realized that he had really found a treasure. Send the follow-up at any time? Didn't this mean that the experiment had been successful? He calmed down. "Okay, Miss Pei, don't worry. I'll pass it on for you." "Thank you." Bei Yunj's lips curved. "No need, it's my duty." Marcus was overjoyed that such a talent could be produced in the Computing Institute. Unfortunately, this big boss did not plan to emigrate. After the chat, Bei Yunj had just hung up the call and was about to leave when she bumped into Cheng Zihuai. Cheng Zihuai was here to look for Qin Youjiao and did not expect to bump into Bei Yunj in the corridor. He subconsciously glanced at the book in her hand. It was an English book about computers. Cheng Zihuai's cold eyes showed a hint of mockery. And she still said that she didn't deliberately play tricks on him? Bei Yunj knew that he was interested in computer science. If it wasn't for him, would she be able to understand such a difficult professional book? Bei Yunj, I can't even understand the book in your hand. Cheng Zihuai sneered and looked at her. Bei Yunj pursed his lips and sized up Cheng Zihuai with a faint smile. With this level of skill, he wanted her to guide him? Bei Yunj laughed. Is there a need to expose your IQ? Immediately, Cheng Zihuai's face darkened. No wonder the Qin family had always looked down on her. As the biological daughter of the Qin family, Bei Yunj was nothing compared to Yu Jiao. He only knew how to cheat. Cheng Zihuai's expression gradually returned to normal. He tidied up his sleeves and said coldly, Bei Yunj, no man will like your scheming methods. Bei Yunj had been found fault with by Cheng Zihuai several times and had long lost her patience. The corners of her lips suddenly curled up and she raised her eyes slightly. She was bright and arrogant. Methods? Are you worthy? Chapter 57. These words made Cheng Zihuai's expression darken and his gaze was so dark that he looked like he wanted to strangle Bei Yunj to death. Bei Yunj, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you have the Qin family. He gritted his teeth and said. Bei Yunj snorted and hugged the book in her arms calmly as she asked slowly, Do I need the Qin family to be arrogant? The girl's eyes were eye-catching and beautiful, but they made people feel that she was impudent. These words made Cheng Zihuai's face turn red and he was speechless. It was only after Bei Yunj left that Cheng Zihuai took a deep breath to calm himself down. He looked at Bei Yunj's figure and ridicule and coldness gradually appeared in his eyes. Forget it, he didn't need to be calculative with such a person. Compared to Qin Youjiao, who had been nurtured to be talented and beautiful since she was young, Bei Yunj was indeed the shame of the Qin family. No wonder she was not doted on by the Qin family. For 2 days, Bei Yunj was perfecting the project and waiting for the neurologist's reply. Until Friday. Bei Yunj suddenly remembered that she had forgotten to tell that person about this. After class, Bei Yunj called He Shidu when there was no one around. In the He Corporation, the handsome and dignified man had just finished a meeting and the atmosphere in the meeting room was still tense and cold. It had to be said that every internal meeting of the He Corporation was like a trial. It was soul-stirring. After everyone had left, the man heard his phone vibrate and his cold, pale-colored eyes glanced at the caller ID on the screen before he picked up the phone and answered the call. He asked carelessly, Child, are you calling me during class? Class just ended. Bei Yunj said, Brother, I'm going home today. Go home? My grandfather just came back from the hospital. I plan to visit him. Sure. With that said, before Bei Yunj could hang up, He Shidu heard him ask again. All right, Yun, how were your results for the monthly exam? Bei Yunj was speechless. In the end, when she hung up the phone, it ended with Bei Yunj telling her that she had to study at home over the weekend. He Shidu, who was sitting in front of his desk, thought for a moment before calling Qinyu, Qin family's old residence. Before old Master Qin was brought back, Mother Qin had already changed into a dark purple cheongsam. She was dressed dignified and elegant as she waited. Mom, when Grandpa comes back this time, will he be like before? Hiding the unwillingness in her eyes, Qin Youjiao's fingers sank even deeper into her palms, clenching them so tightly that her fingers turned white. In the past, old Master Qin doted on her and treated her like his own granddaughter. However, ever since Bei Yunj returned, old Master Qin had been biased towards Bei Yunj. He even forbade her from living in the old mansion because of Bei Yunj. Thinking of how she could only stay in a nearby hotel every time she returned to the old mansion in the past 2 years, the jealousy and hatred in Qin Yojiao's heart grew stronger. How could Bei Yunj compare to her? She was clearly a trash. However, the old man was stubborn and valued blood relations very much. Don't worry, Grandpa doted on you back then. Looking at Qin Yojiao's appearance, Mrs. Qin could not help but feel sorry for her. She immediately comforted her. However, Grandpa cares more about blood relations. But as long as Jiao Jiao is filial, how can Grandpa be so heartless? Hearing this, Qin Yojiao's tone was aggrieved. Really? Mom, third brother doesn't seem to dote on me anymore. Will you? Silly child, you'll always be Mom's daughter. Chapter 58. Then, Mrs. Qin picked up the gift box beside her and handed it to Qin Yojiao. I asked a friend to buy this from overseas. Your grandfather will definitely like it. When the time comes, just tell Grandpa that you bought it. Do you understand? Hearing this, a dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she looked up to ask, Mom, is this very expensive? More than 2 million. Mrs. Qin caressed Qin Yojiao's head lovingly, unable to hide the love in her tone. Jiao Jiao, don't worry. With me around, I will definitely make Grandfather value you again. Besides, my daughter is so outstanding. Thank you, Mom. Qin Yojiao was extremely touched and hugged Mrs. Qin excitedly, but she hid the smugness and disdain in her eyes. So what if Bei Yunj was the Qin family's biological daughter? In the end, all of this could only be hers. At this thought, Qin Yojiao's mood improved a lot. On the other hand, Mrs. Qin had been envied by many wealthy ladies because of Qin Yojiao's piano tour recently. They praised her whenever they saw her, making her complexion rosy. A dark look flashed past her eyes. No matter what, she had to protect Jiao Jiao. Otherwise, when others found out that Bei Yunj was her biological daughter in the future, she would lose a lot of face. So, at the door, Mr. Qin and Qin Lang were supporting a thin old man on both sides. Seeing this, Mrs. Qin immediately grabbed Qin Yojiao's hand and went forward with a smile. Dad, you're finally back. Hearing this, old Master Qin only glanced at her calmly before his eyes swept past Qin Yojiao. He froze for a moment before his expression darkened. Where's my gu? At this moment, before Mrs. Qin could get Qin Yojiao to greet old Master Qin, she heard old Master Qin's question and her expression immediately darkened. After Mrs. Qin's expression calmed down, she said with a smile, she probably hasn't arrived yet. She changed the topic and the meaning was unclear. However, Jiao Jiao is from the same school as her. But Jiao Jiao arrived very early. I don't know what she's busy with. Hearing this, Qin Lang's expression darkened. Was she saying that Ge was unfilial in front of grandfather? Then, Qin Lang was about to speak when he heard old Master Qin say angrily, You don't know what your daughter is busy with and you still have the cheek to say it. What if Ge ran into trouble along the way? What should we do? Qin Lang, she really didn't need his help. Grandpa was still the same as before, extremely biased. As expected, after being rebuked by old Master Qin, Mother Qin's expression changed again. Beside him, Qin Yojiao's body froze. She felt like she wasn't a member of the Qin family. That child doesn't need my concern. I wasn't the one who took care of her in the past. Mrs. Qin forced a smile onto her face. Dad, Jiao Jiao has been working very hard recently. She's ranked second in the entire cohort and even won the first prize in the competition. Soon there will be a steal. Lang, hurry up and give Ge a call. Ask her if something happened to her. Old Master Qin turned his head and said worriedly to Qin Lang, if she gets bullied, she definitely won't say anything. This child has always treated himself as an orphan. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent. Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin looked even more embarrassed and speechless. Other than old Master Qin, no one dared to say such a big truth. Qin Lang held back his laughter and nodded. In front of the Qin couple and Qin Yojiao, he called Bei Yunj. Suddenly, a sound came from the door. Chapter 59. The girl's lazy voice was still clear and melodious. Instantly, Everyone's eyes turned to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj walked towards them slowly from the door. In the end, her eyes landed on old Master Qin. Bei Yunj looked at the old man who couldn't suppress the joy in his eyes and hesitated for a moment. Grandpa, did something happen on the way? Or is there too much homework in school? Why did Ge lose so much weight? The more old Master Qin spoke, the more his heart ached. As he held Bei Yunj's hand, there was guilt and self-blame in his eyes. If his body was stronger, he could still keep Ge by his side and let Ge live a good life for another 10 to 20 years. However, fate made a fool of him. His body couldn't last more than a year or two. If he left, the person he was most worried about was Ge. At this thought, old Master Qin's eyes turned red. Bei Yunj could see that the old man in front of her was really good to her, but for a moment, it was difficult for her to accept the original protagonist's family. After a while, a faint helplessness appeared in Bei Yunj's eyes and she said with a soft laugh, "Grandpa, I fell asleep during self-study just now, so I didn't come in time." Hearing this, Qin Yojiao's expression was contemptuous and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. She fell asleep during self-study? How long could such a person stay in Hengda? Not only Qin Yojiao, Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin also frowned unconsciously. They didn't expect Bei Yunj to be so ignorant and incompetent. She even slept in class. However, when old Master Qin heard this, he pulled Bei Yunj's hand with a smile and walked into the hall. That's good. As high school students, we have to know how to strike a balance between work and rest. Hearing old Master Qin's biased words, Mrs. Qin felt uncomfortable and said with a frown, "Jiao Jiao has to do exercises after a day of class. Sleeping in class? If she can't even get into university in the future, won't she be a joke?" The moment she finished speaking, Mother Qin felt old Master Qin's cold gaze and immediately shut her mouth. Then, old Master Qin laughed coldly. "Who dares to laugh at my granddaughter? The inheritance that I, Qin Kaming, leave behind is enough for my granddaughter to be happy for the rest of her life." These words made the Qin couple's expressions darken. Qin Yojiao was burning with jealousy, her expression unwilling and resentful. This damned old man, he wasn't biased at all. His heart was clearly running behind Bei Yunj. Old Master Qin was too lazy to pay attention to the three people beside him. Instead, he said to Bei Yunj kindly, "Good grandson, our family doesn't lack money. If you can't pass the exam, then so be it. In the future, your three brothers will support you. If they don't raise you, I'll break their legs." If it was in the past, Qin Lang would have scoffed. But now, Qin Lang's handsome face was full of caution as he looked at Bei Yunj's side profile. As long as Ge is willing, third brother will transfer all the money to Ge's bank account. Qin Yojiao's face turned green when she heard what Qin Lang said. Qin Lang's attitude towards Bei Yunj now was even more doting than before. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao bit her lip and tried her best not to lose her composure. Suddenly, Qin Yojiao pulled Mrs. Qin's hand, her expression dark. "Mom, should I not have come here?" Mrs. Qin's heart immediately ached and she immediately held Qin Yojiao's hand and said to old Master Qin, "Dad, Jiao Jiao has a gift for you. Jiao Jiao has prepared this for a long time to show her filial piety. Open it and take a look." Chapter 60. With that said, Qin Yojiao was about to hand over the gift box in her hand when she heard old Master Qin say calmly, Just finished school and must be hungry. Let's prepare to eat first." With that said, old Master Qin pulled Bei Yunj and sat on the side of the main seat. Usually, only the juniors that the elders liked the most had the chance to sit in this seat. Seeing this, Qin Yojiao's eyes darkened and her nails almost scratched her palm. Mrs. Qin could not help frowning. "Dad, Ah Ting used to sit in this seat. How can you let her sit here?" However, hearing this, old Master Qin was still unhappy. He was expressionless. "In that case, Ge will sit in the main seat. I'm an old man, so I can just move a stool and sit beside Ge." Mr. Qin immediately said, "Dad, you're joking. There's nothing particular about this seat. Whoever you want to sit beside you can sit beside you." "That's more like it." Old Master Qin snorted coldly and pulled Bei Yunji's hand to sit down. Seeing this, Qin Yojiao's eyes turned red with jealousy. Even when she was most doted on in the Qin family, she had never received such treatment. Qin Yojiao felt unbalanced and Mrs. Qin's expression did not look good either. There's still some time before dinner. Dad, why don't you take a look at Jiao Jiao's gift first? Mrs. Qin said persistently. Hearing this, Old Master Qin furrowed his eyebrows. Qin Yojiao took this opportunity to place the gift box on the table and opened it gently. Inside was an early foreign silver ornament. It was not so expensive that it would make Old Master Qin suspicious, nor would it be cheap. What was more important was its rarity. Mrs. Qin knew very well that Old Master Qin had always liked foreign silverware. You bought this? Old Master Qin looked at Qin Yojiao. The price isn't low, right? Qin Yojiao lowered her head and nodded. But Grandpa likes it, so it's worth it no matter how expensive it is. Soon, Old Master Qin sighed. He had watched this child grow up and she was indeed filial. However, Mr. and Mrs. Qin's preference for Qin Yojiao had indeed angered Old Master Qin back then. This caused Old Master Qin to fly into a rage. Thank you. Old Master Qin was still indifferent. Seeing this, Mother Qin smiled and said, Jiao Jiao has always been sensible. Then she asked casually, what did you buy for Grandpa? Bei Yunji looked up and met Mrs. Qin's eyes calmly. This made Mrs. Qin feel inexplicably guilty. Bei Yunji said calmly, I didn't buy it. Hearing this, mockery surfaced in Qin Yojiao's eyes. Mrs. Qin added, Your grandfather just came back. Aren't you going to buy anything for him? Enough. Old Master Qin frowned. Her being healthy is the best gift to me. After saying that, before Mrs. Qin could retort, she heard Qin Lang ask leisurely. Mom, how much living expenses have you given Ge? Mrs. Qin choked on her words and her expression changed. What? Does Ge have any living expenses? Old Master Qin's face darkened. Mrs. Qin immediately panicked. No. I've always asked the butler to pay for my living expenses. Qin Lang laughed and said carelessly, I fired the butler. He only gave Ge 2,000 yuan a month for her living expenses. The rest was taken by him. 2,000? Old Master Qin slammed the table and stood up. He was so angry that he was dizzy and shouted at them, Are you her biological parents? Instantly, Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin panicked. Chapter 61. Dad, I don't know. I really don't know. Mrs. Qin immediately denied it, feeling even more annoyed. Why didn't Bei Yunji say something like this earlier? You don't know? You should be more concerned about Ge. How dare the servant bully Ge like this? Old Master Qin's vision turned black. Seeing that Old Master Qin was too emotional, Bei Yunji immediately held him. Grandpa, please sit down first. Bei Yunji helped Old Master Qin sit down and took out a paper bag. Inside was a red scarf. Grandpa, you'll only be able to use this gift in about 2 to 3 months. Bei Yunji laughed and her beautiful eyes curled up. The original protagonist had prepared this scarf for Old Master Qin. However, she had only knitted half of it. Last night, when she was done with the rest of the project, she suddenly remembered. So Bei Yunji also learned from the video and took it apart and knitted it for the whole night. Why you knitted this for Ge? Old Master Qin could not help asking excitedly. I don't know if Grandpa likes it. I like it, Grandpa likes it too much. Ge made this herself. It's better than anything else. Old Master Qin took out the scarf and looked at it. He smiled so widely that his eyes narrowed before he carefully put it back into the bag. Seeing this, Bei Yunji's lips curved. The contract with the Computing Institute had just been signed and the 3 months' salary had not been paid yet. As for Yu Manran, she had paid the deposit first. However, this was not enough for her to buy a gift for the old master. So Bei Yunji planned to make up for it on Old Master Qin's birthday later. However, seeing this, Qin Yojiao's expression was terrible and she was trembling with anger. She had given the old master a gift of 2 million yuan, but it could not compare to Bei Yunji's scarf that was less than 200 yuan. So, Mr. Qin apologized. Dad, this is our negligence. We didn't know this would happen. You weren't negligent, you were heartless. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Old Master Qin's words stabbed into the Qin couple's hearts. It made their expressions turn ugly. Qin Youjiao gritted her teeth in hatred and stared at Bei Yunji darkly. Why must Bei Yunji exist? If it weren't for Bei Yunji, she would be the only lady of the Qin family, and old Master Qin wouldn't treat her like this. At this moment, however, Bei Yunji looked up and glanced at her playfully. Then he slowly poured himself a cup of tea. No one noticed that the girl who didn't even dare to raise her head back then had a languid expression on her face. Every frown and every movement was graceful. Qin Youjiao clenched her fists and pretended to smile. Yunji, you've suffered. However, if Grandpa dotes on me so much, it's worth it no matter how much I suffer. After saying this, everyone thought that Bei Yunji would say a few words to express his gratitude. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunji only waited for the dishes to be served before slowly peeling the prawns. Then he placed it on the old man's plate. Grandpa, eat more. Our girl is still the most sensible one. She's clearly spoiling Grandpa. The old man, who used to be ruthless in the business world, was now smiling amiably. He was so coaxed that he was on cloud nine. This scene made the expressions of the three members of the Qin family turn terrible. In the past, Bei Yunji was overly doted on. Now, he even had the ability to coax the old man into a happy mood. Suddenly, a cheerful voice sounded from the door. I heard that old Master Qin is also here today. My father specially asked me to visit you. I don't know if I'm disturbing everyone. Hearing this, everyone looked at the young man who was walking over. Chapter 62. Old Master Qin and Mr. Qin knew the person who spoke just now. It was the heir of the Yu family, Yu Hanran, who often cooperated with the Qin family. He was handsome and charming, and he was also very popular outside. And the other person beside Yu Hanran was even harder to ignore. At this moment, Bei Yunji looked up and happened to meet that pair of pale-colored eyes. She was stunned. This was the first time she saw Huashidu dressed so formally. He was dressed in an expensive black handmade suit, making him look even more tall and noble. His deep and cold eyes exuded a sense of nonchalance. At this moment, the man inadvertently looked at the young lady's stunned expression and his lips unconsciously curled into a frivolous and casual smile. At the same time, Yu Hanran introduced, "Oh right. Old Master Qin, this is my friend, Huashidu." Old Master Qin, I've heard a lot about you. Huashidu smiled. Old Master Qin quickly reacted with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. You're that person from the Hua Corporation? Old Master Qin, if you don't mind, you can call me Shidu. Hearing this, Yu Hanran could not help but look at Huashidu. When did Master Du become so amiable? In the industry, he often met older generation partners. However, Master Du did not necessarily give them a chance to get close to him. All right. Please take a seat. Today is a family banquet. It's a pity that I didn't prepare a special reception for the two of you, Old Master Qin said with a smile. However, Old Master Qin also found it strange. In the past, the Yu family did not have much of a relationship with their family. Why would they suddenly visit them? Moreover, they actually met the heir of the Hua family. It's good that Old Master Qin doesn't mind me freeloading. Yu Hanran was obviously a talkative person and started to liven up the atmosphere. Bei Yunji also looked at Huashidu without hiding anything. She did not expect Huashidu to appear here. Unexpectedly, other than Bei Yunji, there was also Qin Lang, who had met Huashidu once. Wasn't this the man who had abducted his girl? However, Qin Lang did not show it, afraid that he would cause trouble for Bei Yunji. Suddenly, Mrs. Qin smiled and asked, I wonder if Mr. Hua is married? When Yu Hanran heard this, he seemed to have choked and started coughing. This Mrs. Qin was too bold. Did Huashidu still need her to worry about his marriage? Which of the top families in the country didn't want to marry into the Hua family? Moreover, This person was Huashidu. No, Huashidu said. Immediately, Qin Yojiao's face flushed red. She did not dare to look at the man who had made her unable to look away the moment he entered the room. It had to be said that for girls of this age, such a handsome and mature man was simply a walking hormone. It was irresistible. Oh, I see. Mr. Hu doesn't look that old. He and our Jiao Jiao. Before Mother Qin could finish speaking, she felt old Master Qin's warning gaze. Then her voice stopped abruptly. She also felt uncomfortable. She couldn't possibly let Jiao Jiao miss out on such an outstanding man, right? Grandpa Sheng didn't allow her to introduce him to Jiao Jiao. Could it be that he was interested in Bei Yunj? Huashidu asked, Jiao Jiao. Hearing the man call her name, Qin Yojiao's heart beat faster. In the next second, Huashidu's magnetic voice could not hide his low laughter. It was ostentatious and light. Chapter 63. Before Bei Yunj could pick up the food, she heard this. After that, the man's tone was neither fast nor slow. His lazy voice tickled her eardrums. However, older brother still likes Yun Yun more. Instantly, all eyes were on her, from shock to disbelief. What was going on? These two knew each other? Suddenly, Qin Yojiao's face turned green and red. Her expression was extremely ugly as she looked at Bei Yunj instinctively. How did Bei Yunj know such a man? When old Master Qin mentioned the Hua surname just now, she suddenly remembered that her friend had mentioned the Hua family. Especially the current president of the Hua Corporation, Huashidu. Even though she was the young lady of the Qin family now, she knew that there was a certain gap between her and this man. But at this moment, she saw with her own eyes that this handsome and dignified man called Bei Yunj intimately. Hello. You know each other? Old Master Qin was the first to react and asked in disbelief. Bei Yunj glanced at Huashidu and said with a smile, We met by chance. Hearing this, however, Yu Hanran, who was beside him, looked at Bei Yunj. The others were skeptical and thought that there might be nothing between the two of them, but he knew Master Du's temper very well. If there was nothing, why would Master Du, who had never been close to women, take the initiative to approach her? But then again, this girl was indeed eye-catching and beautiful. Suddenly, old Master Qin said with a smile, Then it must be our girl who has troubled you, Mr. Hua. It's not considered trouble. Huashidu smirked and saw that Bei Yunj was still staring at him. Suddenly, he chuckled faintly. His clear and magnetic voice was nonchalantly mocking. Yun Yun, you're not even greeting me when you see me? Bei Yunj calmed down and looked at him with a smile. Brother Shidu. The girl's voice was pleasant. It was not sweet, but it was inexplicably flirtatious. However, when she called him Brother Shidu, it made the man's eyes darken and hide all the light in them. His throat was a little itchy. No one noticed anything strange on Huashidu's face. However, Qin Yojiao could not help but speak up. Mr. Hua, my name is Qin Yojiao. She blushed. You can call me Jiao Jiao. Huashidu did not even bat an eyelid. He hummed perfunctorily, indicating that he understood. This completely different treatment made Qin Yojiao's face turn red and pale, as she bit her lip tightly. Why was this man so intimate with Bei Yunj? But when facing her, he was the complete opposite? When Mrs. Qin saw that Qin Yojiao's eyes were red, she immediately smiled and said, A person like Mr. Hua must have been outstanding since he was a child. Our Jiao Jiao is the same. She won't lose to anyone in any aspect. Speaking of this, Mrs. Qin seemed to glare at Bei Yunj, who was beside her. However, she didn't notice that the man's gaze was turning cold. Mother Qin's words made even Yu Hanran frown. What's wrong with Mrs. Qin? She felt that the one called Jiao Jiao was her biological daughter. The other one was like Cinderella in her stepmother's house. All right, what do you look like as the matriarch of the household? Old Master Qin's expression darkened when he saw that Mrs. Qin could not wait to let Qin Yojiao get familiar with Huashidu. I'm just afraid that Mr. Hua will be too bored here, so I let Jiao Jiao chat with Mr. Hua, Mrs. Qin said awkwardly. Chapter 64. Old Master Chin was expressionless, and his words made Mrs. Chin's face turn red and pale. Mr. Chin hurriedly saved the situation. "Dad is right. Let's eat first. Let's all eat." Hearing this, everyone started to eat in silence. Only Old Master Chin cared about Bei Yunj from time to time. The Chin couple beside them did not look too good. Not to mention Chin Yojiao. Until the end of the meal, Mr. Chin said respectfully to Old Master Chin, "Dad, I spent a lot of time contacting Dr. Fong Gisheng recently. Why don't I accompany you to Ming City after a while and see if there's a better treatment?" "Fong Gisheng? Isn't it very difficult to invite Dr. Fong?" Old Master Chin had heard of this neurologist before. He was very famous in the industry. However, this person was arrogant and was not easy to invite. Hearing this, Mr. Chin's eyes were filled with pride and he said with a smile, "Dr. Fong gave a speech in Hengda previously and had a deep impression of Jiao Jiao. This time, he did it for Jiao Jiao's sake." With that said, Old Master Chin did not expect this either. However, Chin Yojiao lowered her head shyly and said softly, "I didn't help much. It's just that Dr. Fong happened to be free, so he gave me face." "Jiao Jiao, why are you being so humble in front of your own family? Why does Dr. Fong only give face to Jiao Jiao and not others?" Mrs. Chin smiled dotingly and said to Old Master Chin, "Dad, Jiao Jiao is really concerned about your matters. Apart from the 2 million yuan gift this time, she's also very concerned about your condition and hopes that you can recover soon." With that said, Mrs. Chin could not help but glance at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj was sitting by the sofa, playing with her phone and had no intention of looking up to speak. She smirked and a trace of disgust flashed past her eyes as she turned her head away. However, she did not expect this scene to be seen by the man beside her. On the other side, Bei Yunj supported her head with one hand and saw a message. "Hello, Miss Pei. I'm Stephen from our nation's medical institute." Then, before Bei Yunj could click agree, she saw 2 more messages. "Sorry, I blacklisted Marcus 2 days ago. I only saw your project today. Stephen, I really like your project. Are you willing to cooperate with me?" Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She could tell that Mr. Stephen was quite anxious. She quickly agreed. "Why? Gee, this project has been completed. If Mr. Stephen likes it, I can give you a follow-up. However, I have an important relative who needs brain surgery. I wonder if Mr. Stephen can help?" At this moment, far away in an overseas research institute, Stephen's eyes lit up and he became excited. He quickly replied to Bei Yunj, "Of course. Any time is fine. However, Miss Pei, can you give me a medical record first?" This was a chance to get closer to the boss. They might even be able to secretly poach people from the computing institute into their medical institute. However, after reading Stephen's message, Bei Yunj thought for a moment and turned to ask Old Master Chin, "Grandpa, can I have a copy of your medical record?" Old Master Chin asked instinctively, "Oh, why do you want the medical record?" "Yunj, don't mess around. Jiao Jiao invited Dr. Fong to be the attending doctor for Grandpa." Mr. Chin frowned. Chapter 65. Bei Yunj looked at him. "Can Dr. Fong cure Grandpa 100%? Mr. Chin choked. Although Fong Gisheng was a famous doctor in the field of neurology, he could not guarantee that he could cure Grandpa 100%. Back then, after Dr. Fong read Old Master Chin's medical record, he only said that he could try his best to let Old Master Chin live for a few more years. "If Dr. Fong can't, why don't you let other doctors try?" Bei Yunj looked at him calmly. "Bei Yunj, don't treat your grandfather's life lightly. What doctor can you know? Do you not even know about quacks without a doctor's license? Are you comparing yourself to Dr. Fong?" Enough. Old Master Chin's face was livid as he glanced at them coldly. When Mrs. Chin moved her mouth and could not say a word, Old Master Chin asked the butler to bring the medical record over. Old Master Chin took the medical record and walked to Bei Yunj. He handed it to her and touched Bei Yunj's head. Old Master Chin's face was full of affection. "Guter is a filial child. Grandpa understands." Bei Yunj was stunned for a moment. She took the medical record and the corners of her lips gradually curled up. Grandpa, don't worry. A dark glint flashed across her beautiful eyes, but her tone sounded like she was joking. As long as there is a 1% success rate, even if I have to go to the gates of hell, I will drag you back. Not many people took her words seriously. However, old Master Qin's eyes were red. He reached out and hugged Bei Yunj. At his age, he was not afraid of death. The only thing he was afraid of was that Ge was not doing well. Old Master Qin laughed and hid the tremble in his voice. Okay, Grandpa hasn't seen Ge get married yet. I can't bear to leave. Hearing this, Yu Hanran instinctively looked at Huashidu beside him. He saw Huashidu standing at the side. His well-defined hand tugged at his tie impatiently, and the tip of his throat moved. His usually lazy pale-colored eyes were filled with coldness and unreadable emotions. His aura was even more oppressive. Huashidu had guessed that Bei Yunj was not favored at home. Otherwise, she wouldn't have hugged a strange man's neck and asked him to take her away instead of going back with her brother. But what he didn't expect was that the Qin family situation was worse than he had imagined. If it weren't for the fact that old Master Qin was around and didn't need his protection, he would probably have taken the little girl away. Stephen was still waiting. Bei Yunj roughly finished reading the medical record and translated it briefly for Stephen. She also sent him the CT scan taken at the hospital. It was daytime in Country R now, so the results would probably be out soon. Bei Yunj knew that old Master Qin's condition had worsened. The longer they delayed, the more dangerous it would be. However, not long after Bei Yunj uploaded the video, Stephen quickly replied. Stephen, this surgery is not a problem, but it must be done as soon as possible. Also, Miss Pei, send me the complete medical record tomorrow. Bei Yunj unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled and continued to chat with him. Why? Gee. All right, thank you, Mr. Stephen. Gee. When will Mr. Stephen be free? Where is the surgery? Stephen, since you're not feeling well, I'll go to Yuncheng. How about next Wednesday? I can also talk to Miss Pei about the project. Seeing this message, Bei Yunj was a little surprised. She knew that Stephen had placed her old master's matter first. Why? Gee. Okay, thank you very much. After chatting. Chapter 66. After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she asked, Brother, why are you here? It's noisy inside. The man was tall and had long legs. His exquisitely tailored black suit made him look lazy and dignified. Just a casual glance from his pale-colored eyes could make one's legs turn weak. This was a mature aura that the boys in school could not compare to. Child, were you adopted? The man leaned closer and sized her up carelessly. His magnetic voice was low and sexy. Bei Yunj seemed to have smelled the faint smell of alcohol on the man. She hesitated for a moment. Brother, did you drink? Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by a voice not far away. Jiao Jiao, don't go. What will happen to Mom if you leave? Qin Yojiao ran out of the hall crying and accidentally fell to the ground. Mrs. Qin chased after her anxiously. She hurriedly helped her up, her eyes filled with heartache. Jiao Jiao, did it hurt? Mom, I'm not from the Qin family. I'm an outsider. Qin Yojiao sobbed. Mrs. Qin hugged Qin Yojiao. No, Jiao Jiao will always be my only daughter. Jiao Jiao, Dad raised you for 19 years. How could I treat you as an outsider? Mr. Qin had always been calm, but he also showed his nervousness towards Qin Yojiao. Not far away, this scene of family harmony was reflected in Bei Yunj's eyes. Bei Yunj was still smiling, but her smile did not reach her eyes. But she did not notice. The man's eyes were dark and unreadable. His gaze was calm, but inexplicably aggressive. In the next second, he reached out his slender hand and pulled up Bei Yunj's wide hood frivolously. Before Bei Yunj could react, the hood covered half of her face. Her vision was covered immediately. She only heard the man's casual voice. It was a little magnetic, but also a little seductive. What are you looking at? Are you prettier than me? Bei Yunj was a little afraid of the dark. She looked up instinctively, only revealing her exquisite chin. The man's gaze happened to land on her red lips. He was a little careless. Bei Yunj had already grabbed the hem of Huashidu's suit instinctively and was extremely close to him. Subsequently, she was just about to take off her hat when he grabbed her hand. With a slight push, Bei Yunj fell forward and crashed into the man's muscular chest. Bei Yunj looked up, but she could not see Huashidu's lips curling up. His gaze was fixed on her. She heard the man's joyful voice ringing out. Her laughter was very charming. "There's nothing to see, Yunyun." His slender, jade-like hand intimately pinched the back of her neck. Bei Yunj felt her spine go numb and her body go limp. He almost lost his balance. What was wrong with this man today? She was seducing people endlessly? Not far away, Qin Yojiao had just been comforted by the Qin couple, and there was a smug look in her eyes as she tried to find Bei Yunj. However, he didn't expect to see Bei Yunj with a hoodie covering her head. She had just steadied herself with one hand on the man's waist. The elegant and handsome man stared straight at Bei Yunj. He seemed to be deliberately teasing her. The atmosphere was not heavy at all. She also didn't see Bei Yunj's disheveled appearance that she wanted to see. Instantly, Qin Yojiao's expression darkened even more. The jealousy in her heart surged and burned with jealousy. Bei Yunj used to care about the Qin couple's attitude towards her the most. But now, she was actually flirting with another man and didn't care at all. Chapter 67. Over here. Before Bei Yunj could take off her hat, she heard the man's lazy voice. "Yun, don't keep touching my waist secretly." Bei Yunj had just taken off her hat and was about to speak when she met the man's light eyes so closely for the first time. She knew that the man's eyes were good-looking and the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. They should be filled with affection. However, there was only indifference and coldness in his pale-colored pupils. They were like the cold moon hanging high in the sky. Instantly, Bei Yunj's anger dissipated. This type of abstinent, refined scum was completely her type of sniper. However, Huashidu looked at the little girl in front of him. She gradually calmed down and looked at him without hiding anything. She was straightforward and bold. "Why are you looking at me in a daze?" Huashidu laughed lazily and scratched her chin with his slender hand. It was no different from playing with a cat. Bei Yunj was about to speak when old Master Qin's voice sounded from behind. "Why all of you are trying to anger me to death?" Bei Yunj turned around instinctively and saw Qin Lang supporting old Master Qin out. The old master's expression did not look too good. Seeing this, Bei Yunj was about to walk over when she was stopped by Huashidu. "Yun, older brother has something to tell your grandfather. Can you wait for me in the car first?" Bei Yunj froze for a moment. She glanced at the situation and suddenly regained her senses. Huashidu probably didn't want her to look at Qin Yojiao and to the rest on purpose just now. She suppressed her thoughts and took the keys from Huashidu. In the hall, old Master Qin started to reprimand the Qin couple with a cold expression. "What the hell are you doing? Or isn't your daughter and you didn't even announce it? Why are you hiding this from me? Do you think that I won't live for another year or two anyway?" Hearing this, Mr. Qin looked flustered. "Dad, it's not like that." "If it's not like that, what is it? Is this how you treat my granddaughter?" Thinking of how nervous this couple was when they ran out just now to comfort Qin Yojiao, old Master Qin wanted to chase them out. "She's not your biological daughter. You value her more than anything else." Old Master Qin's face was livid. Mother Qin pursed her lips and said unwillingly, "Dad, you can't be so biased. Bei Yunj is your granddaughter, and you watched Jiao Jiao grow up. That still can't compare to my own granddaughter." At this point, old Master Qin seemed to be too angry and clutched his throbbing heart. This scene made Qin Lang nervous again. "Grandpa, are you all right?" When they were inside, old Master Qin had almost fainted from anger, giving Qin Lang a fright. Mr. and Mrs. Qin also became nervous as guilt rose in their hearts. After that, suddenly, there was a sound at the door. "Old Mr. Qin, please take a seat first." When everyone heard this, they turned around and realized that it was Huashidu. Yuhan Ran, who was watching the commotion, immediately stood up and wanted to speak to Huashidu. However, he heard Huashidu say, "You can go back first. I still have something on." Yuhan Ran was speechless. Was Master Du treating him as a tool? He asked him to bring him to the Qin family and now he was chasing him away. "Master Du, aren't we leaving together?" Yuhan Ran said with a thick-skinned smile. Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at him indifferently. Chapter 68. After Yuhan Ran left, Mr. Qin, who was beside him, said hesitantly, "Mr. Huashidu, I came in a hurry today and didn't have time to choose a gift." Huashidu's tone was neither fast nor slow. Everyone in the hall was stunned. Then, they saw Huashidu walk in front of old Master Qin. His well-defined hand placed a brand new cooperation agreement on the table. "This is my gift to Yun Yun." With that said, Mr. and Mrs. Qin's expressions changed. On the other hand, Qin Yojiao, who had not dared to make a sound and had hatred in her eyes, turned pale and bit her lip tightly. She looked at the noble and casual man in front of her in disbelief. Mr. Huashidu, old Master Qin was also stunned for a moment and did not look at the contents of the agreement. "I heard from Mrs. Qin just now that Yun Yun only gave old Master Qin a scarf she knitted herself." The man's thin red lips curled up and his tone was casual, but it was straightforward and ostentatious, not hiding his indulgence. "She's a little childish. But the way little girls express their likes has never been subtle. However, since Mrs. Qin thinks it's not suitable, I'll make up for it for Yun Yun." Hearing this, old Master Qin instinctively looked at the agreement and could not help but pause. It was the 3-year cooperation plan between the Hua Corporation and the Qin Corporation. One had to know that with the Qin Corporation's qualifications, it was impossible for them to cooperate with a corporation like the Hua Corporation. Working with such a corporation, other than allowing the Qin Corporation to expand their connections, just the profits brought by this cooperation alone were comparable to the total output of the Qin Corporation for a few years. Besides, the Qin Corporation almost took the majority of the profits from this agreement. "Mr. Hua, your gift is too expensive. I can't accept it." Old Master Qin immediately rejected him. If he really took this agreement, wouldn't he be selling his granddaughter? At this moment, when Mrs. Qin and the rest heard this, they could roughly guess the value of that contract. "Mr. Hua, why do you want to give Yunj a gift?" Mrs. Qin's expression softened. Mrs. Qin did not think that this man in front of her was someone who would cause trouble for himself. However, with his status, it was impossible for him to like Bei Yunj. "You can't blame Yun Yun for this." The man had a hand in his pocket, his tone lazy and playful. "I've been too busy these 2 days and forgot to prepare a gift for Yun Yun. Let her bring it over." As soon as he finished speaking, immediately, everyone present froze and instinctively looked at Huashidu. Did this Mr. Hua mean that Pei Yunj was staying with him now? Qin Lang, on the other hand, was completely stunned. What was Qin Yu doing? Wasn't this man the one who had carried Ger away in front of him? How could he let Ger live with him, suddenly? What? Old Master Qin was stunned. Is she staying at your place?" At the same time, the Qin couple's expressions changed. They knew that old Master Qin was going to hold them accountable again. However, Qin Yojiao's thoughts were still on what Huashidu had said just now. Bei Yunj had actually moved into Huashidu's house? How could this be? Qin Yojiao's expression was livid as it twisted a little. She had always thought that Bei Yunj was living alone, lonely and pitiful, yes. Huashidu admitted it calmly, his gaze lazy and indifferent. "Old Master Qin, I'm sorry. Previously, I didn't want old Master Qin to be unhappy with Yun Yun because of this, so I didn't mention it." Chapter 69. After that, he glanced at Mr. and Mrs. Qin and snorted ambiguously, his lips curling up. "But if Yun Yun is happy staying here, she won't run out alone at night." Hearing this, old Master Qin's heart ached for Bei Yunj. He glanced at Mr. and Mrs. Chin with a dark expression. In the end, he took a deep breath and suppressed his anger before he turned to look at Huashidu. Thank you, Mr. Hua, for taking care of Gu during this period of time. However, will it be too troublesome for you in the future? Old Master Chin was still worried. After all, Bei Yunj was a girl, and it was not good for her to stay in a strange man's house. Yun Yun isn't troublesome. Huashidu's words made Old Master Chin pause for a moment. After a while, he could not help but size up the man in front of him. He was good-looking, the heir of the Hua family, and an unreachable elite in everyone's eyes. It could be said that he was impeccable. It was no wonder that Mrs. Chin would think of a way to get Qin Youjiao and Huashidu together. After that, as expected, Mother Chin opened her mouth. Yunj is a girl after all. It's not convenient for her to stay at Mr. Hua's place. Why don't we let Yunj go back? I think it's quite good to stay at Mr. Hua's place. Old Master Chin interrupted calmly. He still had to think for good. In the future, if he was no longer around after a year, would have someone to protect her. Dad, but it's not like our Chin family can't afford to raise her. How can she stay in someone else's house? Mrs. Chin's expression did not look too good. We can afford to raise her, but her biological parents are worse than her step-parents. Old Master Chin chuckled. Ignoring how terrible Mr. and Mrs. Chin's expressions were, he said to Huashidu with a smile, Mr. Hua, in that case, Gu will have to trouble you in the future. However, you should take this agreement back first. It's too expensive. If Old Master Chin really minds, you can treat it as a gift from Yun Yun. Huashidu's thin lips suddenly curled up. However, I also want to ask Old Master Chin for a promise on behalf of Yun Yun. What promise? Old Master Chin asked. In the next second, Huashidu's low and magnetic voice sounded slowly. Yun Yun is one of the 4 heirs of the Chin family. One of the 4 heirs. Other than the 3 older brothers, Pei Yunj had to be the only heir. Shortly after, the Chin couple's faces turned pale. Qin Youjiao's nails dug into her flesh. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she trembled all over. Everyone could tell who Huashidu was doing this for. Dad, Jiao Jiao has been with us for so many years, how could she? Mother Chin panicked and hurriedly tugged at Father Chin's hand, hinting for him to persuade him. Mr. Chin regained his senses and chimed in. Mr. Hua, although Jiao Jiao is not our biological daughter, she is still a member of the Chin family. I hope Mr. Hua won't take what happened today to heart. Yes, actually, Jiao Jiao's personality is also very good. If Yunj said anything to you, Mr. Hua, it's not true. Mrs. Chin hurriedly explained for Qin Youjiao. Does Mr. Hua also think that I snatched all of this from Bei Yunj? Qin Youjiao asked. She bit her lips again with a stubborn look on her face. Huashidu glanced at her indifferently, looking lazy and casual. Seeing this, Qin Youjiao shut her mouth inexplicably, not daring to speak again. Did she agree to let you take it? Chapter 70. In that instant, Qin Youjiao's face was pale and her lips trembled slightly, but she could not say anything. Huashidu had just returned when he saw Bei Yunj sitting by the front passenger seat with her head propped up. Brother? Bei Yunj saw Huashidu very quickly and asked, Did you drink? Sing Su will come and drive later. With that said, Bei Yunj opened the car door, as if she wanted to sit in the back seat with him and ask him something. He smirked silently and opened the back door, letting Bei Yunj get in first. Within moments, Huashidu sat beside Bei Yunj and closed the car door. The atmosphere in the car was silent, but it was not awkward. Bei Yunj quickly interrupted the atmosphere. Brother, where did you go just now? She asked again, Did you tell my old master that I'm staying with you? Huashidu tugged at his tie impatiently and threw it aside. He loosened 2 buttons and leaned against the seat lazily. His long legs were crossed casually and he looked refined and indifferent. But Bei Yunj could not help asking. Hearing this, the man looked up slightly and stared straight at her with his pale-colored eyes. In the next second, the man's low and magnetic laughter made his sexy Adam's apple move. It was pleasant and sexy. It's not easy to raise a young lady. I got some fees from the old master. Bae Yunja's eyelids moved slightly. What did the old master say? His tone was casual. He told you to listen to me and study hard. Don't fall in love early. Got it. After Bae Yunj finished speaking, she could not help but look at Hoshidu. She had a feeling that there was something wrong with this man's condition today. Usually, this man liked to tease her, but it was not like today. His lazy appearance looked seductive from the bottom of his bones. He was inexplicably frivolous and lazy, making her blush and her heart race. He looked like a refined scum. The next morning, before Bae Yunj woke up, she heard movement at the door. It sounded like a woman's voice. Then, she frowned, but before she could react, the door was suddenly opened. Master Du, I've brought you breakfast. How long do you want to arrange Mrs. Tutoring? A woman's voice entered the bedroom, bringing with it a strong smell of perfume. It directly covered the original aura of the bedroom. Immediately, Bae Yunj didn't feel sleepy at all. She rubbed her eyes with her palms, and the coldness and irritation in her eyes disappeared in a flash. At the same time, the woman walked in and placed the tray on the table in a virtuous manner. Then, she turned to look at the bed with a smile. However, at this time, she did not see the man she expected to see. All he saw was the person on the bed, her fair and tender arms, as well as her soft, jet-black hair. In an instant, the woman's expression changed, and she looked at this scene with an embarrassed expression. How could it be a woman? This room, this decoration, it was clearly a man's room. Without waiting for the woman's expression to ease, the person on the bed slowly sat up, revealing her bright and charming face. Bae Yunj lazily put on her slippers and stood up. Her legs were slender and fair under the nightgown. Tutor me? Bae Yunj laughed and asked again. In an instant, the woman's face turned red and green. She forced a smile. Yes, Mississippi, it was not easy for her to fight for the opportunity to be a tutor at Master Du's house. At first, she thought that Master Du's sister needed tuition. Chapter 71. Wait for me downstairs. Bae Yunj had just woken up and her tone was lazy. On the other hand, the woman glanced at Bae Yunj unwillingly and clenched her fists tightly. She had also graduated from a prestigious university and her appearance and family background were not bad. She actually had to tutor a high school student who was being supported by a mistress. The woman did not think that this overly good-looking girl in front of her would have any shocking background. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Bae Yunj glanced at her with a faint smile. Instantly, the woman shivered inexplicably and left the bedroom immediately. 10 minutes later, after Bae Yunj washed up, she changed her clothes and went downstairs. She looked up and saw the woman sitting by the sofa. She was wearing a tight V-neck chiffon dress that accentuated her curves. However, she did not seem to be here for tutoring. Otherwise, she would not have gone upstairs with breakfast and opened Hoshidu's door directly. The woman also heard the commotion on the stairs and immediately said with a smile, "Miss, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were sleeping there. It's okay. I didn't expect the teacher to be so enthusiastic either." Bae Yunj smiled slowly. These words made the woman's face turn red. "When do we start?" Bae Yunj asked. Although Bae Yunj looked free and unrestrained, she did not like to trouble people. Since this was a tutor hired by Hoshidu, she would not let him worry about this. She did not need tutoring either. "You can start after you're done with breakfast," the woman said with a fake smile, but she could not help feeling jealous. How could such an ignorant little girl attract Master Du's interest? However, now that she could stay here, she would definitely have a chance to see Master Du when that time came. Master Du would know the benefits of a mature woman and would not like such an insensible little girl. At this thought, the woman's expression softened and she waited patiently by the side. At the dining table, Bae Yunj ate breakfast and sent the translated medical record to Stephen. At this moment, Aunt Meow walked over unhappily and glanced at the person on the sofa with disgust. "Miss Yunj, this woman doesn't seem to have any manners. If you don't like her, why don't you change her?" Auntie Meow had seen the woman's series of actions just now. How could she not know what she was thinking? Old mistress definitely wouldn't like such a seductive appearance. I'm fine. Bei Yunj curled her lips and didn't seem to mind. But will this woman teach you wholeheartedly? Aunt Meow frowned. Let's give it a try. Aunt Meow, there's nothing much to do today. You should go and rest. When Auntie Meow heard this, she smiled helplessly and said, All right, keep an eye on this woman too. Don't let her get away with it. After that, before leaving, Auntie Meow gave Bei Yunj a meaningful look that was filled with encouragement and determination. Bei Yunj's chopsticks paused. Question mark. By the time Bei Yunj finished her breakfast, more than half an hour had passed. Beside the coffee table in the hall, the woman asked Bei Yunj to take out her books first. The moment she opened the exercise book, she saw that it was filled with mistakes. It was a tragic sight. A trace of sarcasm flashed past her eyes. Her face was not bad, but she was indeed an idiot. Then, the woman smiled, her tone filled with disdain. Miss, it's very difficult for you to learn well with your foundation. So I will be more strict in the following tutoring. I hope you can cooperate as much as possible. Chapter 72. When Bei Yunj saw this, the corners of his lips curled up, but his smile did not reach his eyes. Teacher, I think you might have misunderstood something. The sarcasm on the woman's face froze. After that, she then heard Bei Yunj say playfully, Whether I learn it or not depends on your ability. The woman could not hold back her expression. If you don't learn, how can I teach you? How's your daily salary? Bei Yunj asked unhurriedly. Instantly, the woman pursed her lips and could only stare gloomily at Bei Yunj. Her daily salary was more than 10 times the market rate. Hence, even if it was not because of Master Du, this job was still very tempting. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes curled up and became even gentler. So, teacher, you'd better be obedient. The woman accidentally met Bei Yunj's eyes, but for some reason she felt a chill run down her spine. In the end, the woman did not dare to let Bei Yunj copy it. Instead, she held the exercise book and thought that Bei Yunj did not know anything, so she explained randomly. Until noon, Auntie Meow went to look for Bei Yunj for lunch. Only then did the woman sneak out of the door and called Tsing Su to complain about Bei Yunj. In the company. After hearing this, Huashidu did not even lift his thin eyelids. His tone was indifferent. Change a tutor. When Tsing Su heard this, he could not help but look at Huashidu. If this had happened to the little young master, he would have probably been punished. But if it was Miss Pei, she would remove him from the tutor? Master Du, why don't we change to a better-looking male tutor? Tsing Su thought that he was smart. Girls will be more obedient to good-looking men. The man's eyelids twitched slightly. His sneer was a little cold and indescribably dangerous. You know how to cater to her interests. Tsing Su's scalp went numb, and he immediately sobered up. He immediately changed his words. Actually, Miss Pei is easily tempted at her age. I think it's better for a female tutor. Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at him indifferently. The pressure he felt was overwhelming. The man lowered his eyes. Tsing Su had just heaved a sigh of relief when he heard him say casually, Come back with me later. When Tsing Su heard this, he understood that Huashidu wanted to go back and visit Bei Yunj. Afternoon. Bei Yunj continued to be tutored, but the woman was obviously absent-minded and made a few mistakes. Suddenly, the woman glanced at the figure outside the door and her eyes lit up. She immediately turned to look at Bei Yunj. Did you understand the question just now? Bei Yunj had just finished replying to the message from the Computing Institute and glanced at the question. Her tone was perfunctory. Then tell me about it. A strange light flashed through the woman's eyes. Who knew? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. You don't know how? At this moment, Huashidu and Assistant Tsing, who had just walked in, heard this conversation. Assistant Tsing's eyelids twitched. With Miss Pei's attitude, Master Du might even fill up little young master's classes. Miss Pei, I've just explained this question. With your attitude, it's useless even if I explain it 100 times, the woman said aggrievedly. Bei Yunj did not speak. From the corner of her eye, she saw the man walking over. Brother! Bei Yunj's eyes curved and her gaze was very clear. Why are you here? Even if he was angry, he had to calm down when he saw this harmless appearance. You don't understand the question? Hoshidu walked to Bei Yunj's side. Before Bei Yunj could speak, the woman explained, it's Mrs. Attitude that's not right. Chapter 73. Bei Yunj glanced at her. The woman averted her gaze, but quickly looked up and met Bei Yunj's eyes, looking smug. Who knew? The next moment, the man's tone was light. Sing Su, settle her daily salary. You don't have to teach her in the future. Instantly, the woman's expression changed, and she looked at Hoshidu. She could not understand why she was the one who was switched. Master Du, this is not my fault. The woman sounded aggrieved. Hoshidu's gaze shifted away from the exercise book. Which question were you teaching her just now? The woman said, the last question. This is your answer? Hoshidu's lazy and indifferent eyes were cold and dangerous. The woman paused and looked at the question a few more times before realizing that she had calculated wrongly. Her pupils constricted and her face turned green and red. She hurriedly explained, Master Du, this was an accident. Hoshidu picked up the cigarette box at the side and sat by the sofa casually. His voice was low and magnetic. Child, go upstairs first. I want to talk to you later. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She felt that she would be in trouble too. Every time Hoshidu called her like this, nothing good would happen. Bei Yunj went upstairs. Then, the atmosphere became even more silent and cold. The man's gaze was lazy and the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. He flicked the cigarette ash with his fingers. His casual appearance made people not dare to breathe loudly. Fear appeared in the woman's eyes and she could not help but say gently, Master Du, give me another chance. I will definitely teach Miss well. Hoshidu glanced at her calmly and asked indifferently, do you think you look like a teacher? In an instant, the woman's face turned pale and her body stiffened. Sing Su, who was at the side, felt a chill down his spine. After all, Master Du had handed this task to him, indeed. The man looked up, his gaze oppressive and dangerous. Sing Su, is this what you did for me? Sing Su's scalp turned numb, but he immediately walked in front of Hoshidu and lowered his head to admit it. Master Du, I'm sorry. This is my fault. I don't want this to happen again. With that, Hoshidu extinguished the cigarette and turned to go upstairs. The woman's expression was unsightly, and she had yet to recover from her fear. When she thought of the man's gaze just now, she felt a little unsteady on her feet, and her back broke out in cold sweat. All right, it's time for you to leave. Seng Su's voice interrupted her thoughts, and she heard him say coldly, anyone with a brain would know whether or not to tell anyone about what happened here. The woman's face was pale, but her body was still trembling. I understand. Second floor. Bei Yunj supported her head with her hands and began to do her homework with a strong will to survive. But soon she heard a knock on the door, and the door opened. Bei Yunj put down her pen and turned to look at Hoshidu. Her unbelievably beautiful eyes curled up. Brother! Hoshidu glanced at her and sat opposite her. Under his suit pants, his slender and abstinent legs were casually placed. His arm leaned loosely against the handle and he inched closer to her. Bei Yunj's ears tingled as the man laughed inappropriately. Child, tell me, what kind of tutor do you like? The man's posture was a little casual and bad, but Bei Yunj could feel that this question was not easy to answer. It was like a fatal question. A moment later, I like someone like brother. Chapter 74. After saying that, Bei Yunj even smiled reservedly. When the man heard this, his gaze was unfathomable. He leaned back lazily, his slender fingers gently tapping the armrest of the chair. After a while, Bei Yunj heard the man chuckle softly. It was so sexy that it was hopelessly sexy. All right then. The smile on Bae Yunja's face froze. Question mark. 40 minutes later. Whole corporation. Bae Yunj sat on the sofa in the president's office. There were several homework books on the coffee table and a pen in her hand. There was also a bottle of milk beside her. The corners of Bae Yunja's mouth twitched. She could not help but look up at the man in the office. At this moment, Hua Shidu happened to be having an impromptu video conference. The higher-ups on the computer screen could feel the pressure from their president through the screen. The atmosphere was tense. Suddenly, Hua Shidu heard a sound not far away. He turned around and saw Bae Yunj picking up a pen. Looking at her bright eyes with a complicated expression, the man's thin red lips curled up imperceptibly. She was still a young lady after all. However, at this moment, the higher-ups who saw Hua Shidu's expression widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. They could not hear the commotion over there, but they could see President Hua's expression clearly. President Hua actually smiled. Why did they feel an inexplicable sense of doting? This smile was too charming. The female higher-ups all felt that their young hearts had been attacked for a long time. However, not long after, everyone suddenly realized that their president's background was the office. Wait a minute, could it be that President Hua brought her to the company? Suddenly, Hua Shidu's low voice sounded. We can begin. Instantly, everyone came back to their senses and extinguished their gossipy hearts. They would find out sooner or later, but no one dared to be so reckless in President Hua's meeting. Not long after, the meeting began. Bae Yunj looked at the topic on the booklet and her eyelids twitched. Inadvertently, she looked up and saw Hua Shidu. She looked at the man's handsome and noble eyes. He was less careless and was holding a meeting in a refined and serious manner. Bae Yunj could not help but take a few more glances. Shortly after, a few minutes later, Hua Shidu also felt the gaze from the side. He listened to the report from the higher-ups and glanced at Bae Yunj. Seeing how serious she was, the man's gaze was fixed on her. His low and hoarse laughter tickled her ears. What's wrong with Yun Yun? Don't keep staring at me. Bae Yunj, in an instant. For the first time, Bae Yunj felt that her ears were a little warm. She quickly lowered her head and began to write the questions to calm herself down. As for the executives, although they couldn't see Bae Yunj, they could see their CEO chuckling softly. Their hearts raced uncontrollably. Was President Hua trying to provoke her hormones today? His HP bar had been emptied. Seeing that Bae Yunj had started to do her homework obediently, Hua Shidu turned around and spoke in a lazy and cold tone. Continue. Okay, President Hua. The higher-ups' feelings today could no longer be described as complicated. They had never thought that their CEO, the flower of the mountain, would be so flirtatious in private. That lazy tone seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally seductive, making people blush uncontrollably. Chapter 75. After the meeting. Seeing that Bae Yunj was doing her homework, Hua Shidu stopped teasing her. But not long after, Bae Yunj suddenly received a call. She glanced at Hua Shidu, who was working. She walked to the door. What's wrong? After Bae Yunj answered the call, she asked slowly. B student Pei, have you gone online? Chu Zhixing's expression was extremely ugly when he saw those comments online. Student Pei was such a good person. Why should she be ridiculed like that? What happened? A dark look flashed past Bae Yunj's eyes. Seeing that Bae Yunj really didn't know about this, Chu Zhixing gritted his teeth. Everyone on the internet is saying that you're the daughter of the Qin family. Besides, the comments aren't very nice. Actually, more people on the internet were saying that Bae Yunj was the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. However, the Qin family deliberately covered it up, so Bae Yunj took advantage of it. And such a thing could be discussed by the public. Of course, it was because someone deliberately released the news to control the popularity. As for the person who did such a thing, other than Qin Yojiao, no one else would do it. After all, old Master Qin had just forced the Qin couple to publicly acknowledge their daughter yesterday. Today, bad news about her started to appear. You're quite capable. Bei Yunj snorted and leaned against the wall lazily. Chu Zhixing was confused and didn't know what Bei Yunj was talking about. I got it. Thank you. Bei Yunj's red lips curved, looking calm. You're welcome, Chu Zhixing said worriedly. Student Pei, let the Qin family settle this quickly. He saw that Qin Youjiao's fans had gone crazy and were insulting Bei Yunj everywhere. They accused Bei Yunj of snatching Qin Youjiao's things. They even dug out a lot of Bei Yunj's information and compared it with Qin Youjiao. They mocked her sarcastically. There was a huge difference between a pheasant and a phoenix. The Qin family? Bei Yunj laughed ambiguously, but there was no smile in her eyes. I got it. I'll hang up first. Chu Zhixing nodded. Not long after, Bei Yunj hung up the phone and went back to her office. Brother, can you lend me your computer for a while? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. Washidu looked at his watch. Bei Yunj had been writing for more than an hour just now. The man nodded. Is a notebook okay? Anything is fine. Bei Yunj sat beside Washidu and looked at him with a smile. Seeing this, the tip of the man's throat rolled, overflowing with a faint chuckle. He placed the notebook in front of Bei Yunj. After the break, I still have to continue writing. The man said casually. Bei Yunj. Within a few minutes, Bei Yunj logged into the social media app and saw the entry at the top of the list. Hashtag Qin family Bei Yunj. Hashtag her beautiful eyes curled up, but there was no emotion in her eyes. After clicking on it, she roughly flipped through the content. It was nothing more than a marketing account that had exposed her family background and her school situation. However, the most vicious people were Qin Youjiao's fans and a large number of righteous netizens. Even illegitimate daughters are causing trouble these days. Who is she trying to disgust? Goodbye. Is there something wrong with the Qin family's brains? People who can't be seen in public shouldn't appear in front of the public. It's an eyesore. Smile. Don't compare my Jiao Jiao to someone. My Jiao Jiao went on a piano tour when she was 19 years old. What about her? Ask if she's worthy first. Chapter 76. However much face Qin Youjiao can bring to the Qin family, a certain someone can bring shame to the Qin family. Congratulations to the Qin family for getting rid of the scourge. How disgusting. Do you think you're a phoenix just because you've climbed up the social ladder? Stay away from my Jiao Jiao. My heart aches for Jiao Jiao. The little princess who has been doted on by her brothers since she was young has to suffer this now. I hope her brothers will protect Jiao Jiao well. Ugh, if you like other people's things so much, why don't you die early and be reincarnated into a good family? Smile. Bei Yunj glanced at it and saw that someone had already uploaded her photo online. However, it was a photo of the original protagonist in school before she was reborn. Because she was not confident, the original protagonist almost covered her face with black-rimmed glasses and smeared her face in a strange way. She was wearing an inappropriate school uniform and looked like a weirdo. On the other hand, Qin Youjiao's fans deliberately compared this ugly photo with Qin Youjiao's exquisite photo, causing a large number of netizens to sigh. They were both daughters of the Qin family, but the difference between them was like heaven and earth. After reading this, Bei Yunj's lips curled up as she held her chin with one hand, the back of her fingers caressing her lips gently. Not too long later, Bei Yunj typed slowly on the keyboard and sent a message to the informant. Aren't you going to consider deleting the comment and apologizing? A certain newspaper reporter, who was happy and smug because he had just gotten a few 100,000 yuan, could not help but sneer when he saw this message. Where did such a meddlesome person come from? If he didn't delete the comment and apologize, what could this person do? At this thought, he laughed contemptuously and replied to Bei Yunj. What if I don't? Smile. What kind of joke was this? Someone had sent him a few 100,000 yuan just to post such a piece of news. Why should he delete it? Then, he replied to the comments section leisurely and fanned the flames, not caring about what trouble he would cause. After all, even if the Qin family wanted to go to court with him, public opinion was on his side now. At that time, Who knew who would be scolded more harshly? At this thought, he glanced at Bae Yunja's chat and laughed mockingly. Where did this idiot come from? There were so many mouths online who had the ability to care. In the office, Bae Yunj couldn't help but laugh when she saw the arrogant reply from the marketing account. Her clear and melodious laughter attracted the gaze of the man beside her. What happened? I'm fine. Bae Yunja's smile disappeared. Her slender and beautiful fingers began to dance on the keyboard. Her eyes were unfocused and emotionless. Seeing this, Hoshidu was interested, but he did not intend to disturb the little girl from playing with the computer. 10 minutes later, a certain newspaper reporter, who was so happy that he wanted to go to the bank to withdraw money to count the money, was stunned and almost couldn't laugh anymore. What's going on? He looked at the mouse arrow on the screen and moved on its own. Then he stopped breathing. After he came back to his senses, he frantically tapped on the keyboard and clicked on the mouse. However, he could only see the arrow slowly entering his personal account, as if it was looking for something. F***CK? The newspaper reporter immediately had a bad premonition, and a chill ran down his spine. After coming back to his senses, he hurriedly made a phone call, wanting to seek help from his computer science friends. However, the next moment, the arrow on the screen suddenly stopped moving. When the reporter saw this, he was stunned for a moment. He thought that there was a bug just now, and then he heaved a sigh of relief. However, he didn't expect that before he could relax, he would see another line of words in the chat box just now. Chapter 77. Seeing this, the newspaper reporter's eyes widened and a chill ran from his spine to the back of his head. Who was this person? What was this person trying to do? So, the mouse arrow on the screen gave him the answer. His friend had just answered the call and asked him what had happened. However, his hands were trembling and his phone fell. He watched as the mouse arrow turned left and right slowly as if it was torturing him on purpose. Soon, the arrow found the sign to cancel the account. At this moment, he stood up suddenly and shouted anxiously. He grabbed the screen like he was crazy and shook it with all his might. No. Stop it now. The things on the computer table were all flipped to the ground by him. His face was pale and he smashed the screen with all his might, but he still saw the dialog box appear. Are you sure you want to cancel your account? That arrow directly clicked. Confirm. F***CK. The bespectacled man with a head full of feathers smashed the computer. He slumped onto the chair and rubbed his hair with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot. His account could bring him at least a few million yuan. But now he had lost his account because of a few 100,000 yuan. The bespectacled man even had the intention to kill someone and his face was filled with despair. He had worked hard for 4 to 5 years to build up his account. Within half an hour, several big accounts that used the same article to spread rumors about the Qin family and Bae Yunj received the same greeting. At first, no one took it seriously. In the end, dozens of big accounts disappeared. In the group chat of these big accounts, someone started to crazily at their friends who had not been blown up, telling them not to repost the things that were at the top of the trending searches. It was not worth it for the sake of popularity. It was not worth it to lose one's account. On the other hand, Qin Youjiao's fans and netizens who were about to fight to the end suddenly felt the abnormality at the top of the trending searches. They found that most of the big accounts had disappeared into thin air. What was going on? Many people could not help but be curious. They clicked on the list of people they followed and looked for the big accounts they followed. They found that several big accounts that they had followed before had disappeared. As for a few marketing accounts that had foresight, it was a good thing that they left a side account. However, they were all making strange movements. I'm sorry, Immortal, I was wrong, bye-bye. Let me go, brother. I apologize. I shouldn't have eaten the melon blindly. I'm turning over a new leaf. Stop staring at me. Fortunately, I have a Smurf account. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me again. Don't ask me why my main account is gone. If you ask, I deserve it. From today onwards, please pay attention to social news and artists' works. Don't simply gossip. Heartbreak. The netizens and Qin Yojiao's fans were speechless. What was going on with these bloggers? Why did he look like he had been educated by society and had turned over a new leaf? After that, many people clicked on the first entry with doubts, wanting to see the comments inside. However, he discovered that it had been completely emptied. The netizens who saw this scene inexplicably felt that danger was approaching. They carefully exited the hot search and asked the bloggers what was going on. However, Qin Yojiao's fans refused to believe it and scolded her even more ruthlessly. But in the end, as soon as he sent it out, the phone automatically froze. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.